Hi, everybody, and welcome. January 24th, 2024. And I want to read this beautiful comment from Charlie B. He says, "Your new Command album is awesome. All killer, no filler." Thank you so much for that. First of all, truly heartening as a musician to hear that feedback because I am very, very proud of Command. And I know I literally just released Hellbreaker and did a lot of more promotion and did a real listening party for that. I'm gonna do a real listening party for Command also because it's worth it. And powerful songs, personally powerful songs, great songs for lasagna dancing, and a ton of magic in that accumulation of creativity there too. So thank you so much. So if you guys want to know Aurora, where do we find your music? How can we support your music? First of all, you can help support my music by listening to it here on YouTube. And it might be a little bit challenging to find because there's so many other Auroras, but if you go to my homepage of Flying Rainbow Lasagna channel, you can find aggregates and playlists of everything there. And it does actually help support me as a musician because I get a small amount of revenue, every time somebody listens through YouTube. And also, if you're a Spotify or an Apple Music listener, you can find me on there as well. If you have trouble finding me amidst the many, many, many artists and bands and symphonies and projects that are named Aurora, just do a search for Birth of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, all right? And you will find that album cover right back there, and then you'll know it's me, and you can find me through the artist. And Command is not officially out on those platforms yet, so you can also support me. The best way is Bandcamp. And if you guys don't know about Bandcamp, it's a wonderful website that is supportive of indie musicians, that makes it so you don't have to make some kind of a Faustian bargain just for people to hear your music out there. So yeah, I'm 100% independent and 100% in integrity, and you can find my entire everything over there on my Bandcamp, and you can buy the entire discography, which is like 10 albums and so many singles, or you can become a subscriber, and that also really helps to support me as a musician, or you can buy a single song that you really like or one album that you really like. And if you're like, but Aurora, it's on Bandcamp, and then how do I listen to it all the time? You import it from Bandcamp to either your Apple Music player or whatever system you use on your computer or your phone or whatever to save for your playlist. So there's technological ways to jump over that hurdle. So thank you so much to anybody who wants to support my music. Find Command over there on Bandcamp. First song, which is the eponymous title song, is really awesome. It's a really, really strong song, and it really gets me going into lasagna in like 2 seconds. Like if you need an energy boost, turn on that song. So thank you so much for giving me an opportunity, Charlie B, to talk about my music. I also want to jokingly, but not so jokingly, say, while I'm on this topic, all the different ways that you can support me in terms of, thank you so much for people who tune into my class. Thank you for the people who tune into my lectures, being here on YouTube, and I know you have to suffer through an ad in the beginning and then sometimes some sprinkled throughout. Thank you for the minor inconveniences of those ads, because that actually does help me, again, to support my work. One of the other ways you can support my work is by formally enrolling. That is in the enrollment link that you will always find in the description, and this is only the second lesson of the semester, so it's an excellent time to hop on board. And if you become a fully enrolled student, you never have to pay tuition again. You can just always continually come back, and you will gain access to all of the recorded whiteboards, which really fleshes out the live lectures that I give each week. And you can also become an enrolled student by joining my Patreon at $25 per month. Sorry, my mouth doesn't connect to my brain all the time. And then also there's a wonderful community of people over there on Patreon. So it's worth it. And now is where I get like slightly lighthearted, but as I'm saying all these different things, and I don't want your eyes to glaze over because it's like, get to the important stuff, Aurora. But also, I'm joke, like this episode of Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans is brought to you by Aurora's Dehydrated Broccoli Microgreens. I didn't want to be like too commercial or whatever, but yes, this is actually a wonderful thing that I do as a side business. And I also recognize in everything that I offer to people that many people have tight budgets and are just getting by. And so I wanted to make certain to remain in integrity. So these are tiny, immature broccoli plants that are full of an amazing nutrient called sulforaphane. Sulforaphane will help you to achieve the fourth state of water, super purified water, in your circulatory system so that your circulatory system is actually healthy and charged in the way it's supposed to be, and has fantastic benefits, cognitive health, benefits with Alzheimer's and autism too, because all of those are because of low sulfur levels in the body. You eat this, increase the sulfur levels in your body, you'll have huge positive health benefits. So this is actually beyond just nutrition, it's freedom fighter. Become a freedom fighter and eat this good stuff. So yeah, all non-GMO, and this is not plastic, it's like a non-plastic packaging. So another way that you can help to support all of my wonderful light-hearted spirituality and creativity is to do very practical things that are good for your body. And this is a whole month's supply. And then this ends up with shipping, it's about $20. So super affordable, great value, good for your body. Support my work. Thank you so much. All right, now all of that, have a mental sorbet, all of that, because now we're getting into our real reason for being. Like I always recognize and joke about being in the world of commodification, having to keep my light bulbs on, electrons flowing in a wire, all of that. That being said, now moving into, this is level 1, lesson 2. And it's actually a powerhouse lesson. So I hope that all enrolled students did your homework. I sent that out in the email last night. So do your homework. I tried to be lighthearted about it because I'm not that type of a teacher. But it's a 4-part lesson because I'm only going to get through a certain amount here in this lecture. And it's really worth it to delve into all 4 of those parts because I go into human-based science, electromagnetism, and the connection between the magnets and the shape of magnetic fields and this shape here. And it's worth it to delve. It's worth it to make those connections to the already established thought patterns known as objective materialist science, and then relate it to these patterns that I'm talking about and everything that I paint in these paintings, which are, you would call it light, which is pure information, light body, possibilities and probabilities. This is on a more abstract level than is measurable by science, but still totally valid. And so it's a long lesson with multi-parts where I really lay out the greatest information that is the foundation for flying rainbow lasagna. So if you're standing here feeling skeptical, if you're like skeptical side-eye, Aurora, why should I spend so much time on lesson 2 and learn about all of these things so I can master this shape? And I will say to you, because mastering this shape will allow you to be able to comprehend and master this shape. So it's kind of like if we were in ballet class and you're like, why do I have to do first position? Why do I have to do all these pliés? How is this going to help me to dance the Nutcracker? I'm like, master the pliés and then you will do the Nutcracker suite. All right, good. So beginning with, and sorry, I've got all of my different sculptures and everything over here, and I have pictures for you too. Pulling up my notes, and you know me, I always have extensive notes, and then I always diverge from them, but I pull them up anyways in order to remind me of all the important stuff. The notes went out with the class email, and the PDF is available to the public. Again, you don't have to be an enrolled student in order to access. It is called the Flying Rainbow Lasagna Manual for Flight, and it is the compilation of all of these notes that I have for all of my classes each week. My only caution to you is that my spelling is terrible and my grammar is worse, and that it is highly informal, and that as long as you can slug through all of that, tons of gems and good stuff to be able to read there. And also I do that because I learned how humans learn. Humans learn through various different neural processing pathways. So some people learn really well through their ears by listening. You're watching a video and you're listening. And some people learn really well with diagrams. We're going to use diagrams today, my diagrams and my sculptures, right? And some people learn really well through reading. These are all complementary neural pathways, and they all help to strengthen the learning process. So that's why I make sure that making written materials available helps people that are more on that scholarly level. Okay, so beginning with this four-vortex shape. I call this simply the shape, and I'm going to try to hold it up. I know the lighting is challenging today. We have a cloudy day, and you can't really see my face that effectively. But this shape has 4 vortices. You can see like there's one that points down, 2 that point inward from the side, and 1 that points upward. And this shape is an abstract energy shape that is ubiquitous, or I want to say universal. It's in almost everything. It is present in many, many, many different forms. It is a fractal of reality. It is the shape of our cosmic infrastructure. This is the shape of time. but this is also the shape of your time body. The part of you that is an energy field, that is abstract, that surrounds and interpenetrates your physical somatic cellular body and has a huge relationship between your health, vitality, and day-to-day, moment-to-moment experience. So very, very practical information here, and being able to learn about what this shape is and how it affects your life. It's not just a meaningless abstraction. Again, mastering this will help you to be empowered to know what you're actually doing in life. And another aspect of this type of learning is that once you learn about this shape that is an abstraction, it's a template that you can apply to many different other levels of being. So if you learn about this shape as it relates to you as an individuated humanoid, this shape also surrounds your planet. This shape also surrounds the sun. This shape also surrounds something even as tiny as an atom. And if you understand or comprehend a truth about this shape, and it's also the shape of the entire cosmos, of everythingness, then you can apply that comprehension to all these different levels of being. So, okay, today, this is also when we're going to talk about this crucial, amazing, mind-blowing concept. Let me let someone into the meeting, then I'll tell you what the mind-blowing concept is. Dun, dun, dun. The most mind-blowing concept, which is where I'm pointing with my pointer here, this convergence point. It is known as singularity or the singularity. But it's like, you don't have to call it the, there's only one of it, but it's the singularity. So let's begin with that. I'm also going to have my minor rant against the wording, hi Mary, good to see you, sacred geometry. Yes, and I'm going to mute you, not because I don't love you, but just it helps with the quality of the audio recording for everyone who comes in for the archive. The sacred geometry, rant now, I'm feeling it. I just had some decaf coffee, that might help me rant. Okay, so sacred geometry, when many people see my work, and especially over the past 10 or 15 years, as sacred geometry has become more prevalent in the world, people are like, oh, like that's what you do. And I only take issue with that wording because the word geometry, geo means earth, and metric or metry means measuring. And geometry literally came from an ancient practice, the yearly flooding of the Nile. This is through the culture of Egypt a long, long time ago. They would take great care to measure out their parcels of farmland. And then there's the yearly life-giving flooding of the Nile that would wipe away all of their boundaries. And then they would have to constantly redraw them. And so it became an ancient practice that was required for their commerce, to be able to know like how much of this field is my field and how much of this field is your field, and to delineate all of that, literally measuring the earth. And they learned about like sticking sticks into the ground and then having a long piece of rope to connect the sticks and making a triangle or making a square or making a polygon, which we learned last week means multi-sided shape, literally measuring the earth. And so to use the word geometry in talking about measuring something that is most decidedly not your mundane physical body or anything that has a physical presence. You're really measuring something that is an abstraction, or talking about or exemplifying something that is pure energy, an abstract energy form, not a parcel of land. So sacred geometry is just not the best wording, but that was even like, that was the wankiest rant ever. I had hardly any fire. It's a very cloudy day, like I said, just not that much energy in me for a rant, but I don't call this geometry. So what I do call this, and have since I started this class, is the interdimensional language of color, line, shape, form, movement, texture, and tone. And it jumped off my thing so I could play something on my piano here. Tone. What a weird noise. Oh my God, that was totally bizarre. Okay, so I don't always know what my synthesizer settings are, but I thought that that was going to go like ba ba, and instead it made strange percussion noises. Let's see if I can make it here. Wow, I'm really experimental today. Okay, so we'll just turn that down. But tone, la, meaning musical tone. So that is a language. These are all languages of waveforms, languages of harmonics, and languages of shape. When you get into higher dimensions, the way that you communicate is not with the flapping of your moving mouth parts, and is not with any verbalized language that is part of the human culture system. Like, it is not in English, it is not in French, it is not in Japanese. You communicate in shapes, and these shapes are also universal. So that means you could communicate with a canine using shapes, or a dolphin, or a plant, or a planet, or a star, or a piece of light. This is the interdimensional language of all of these forms. Learning this language will literally help you to be able to communicate on a higher dimensional level, and to be an active participant and a citizen of the galaxy. Oh, a responsible citizen of the galaxy. Okay, so what is this shape made out of? Not the sculpture that I'm holding here, which is made out of plastic filament, but the shape that surrounds your body. And I always set up stuff. Wait, grab my thing. This is my thing. And let's get a thing. Oh, the thing isn't working. Wait, now I have to plug in the thing. Okay, hold on. Sorry, guys. I'm usually totally prepared. Oh my goodness, I need to find my charger thing is here. And then it will function for us. You're all like, we're very disappointed. That's it. Everyone is going to explode the universe because I didn't plug in my charger. Don't explode the universe, guys. Come on, give me a chance. All right, plugging in the thing. And now, da-da, there we go. Let's show you stuff. Show you stuff. Not this stuff. Oops, and we'll make all of your faces minimized. Wait, talk to me. There we go. This is what I want to show you. So this is, again, semi-accurate, simplified drawing of the truthfulness of that sculpture that I'm sharing with you. You can see the accuracies of this are that was terrible grammar. The accuracies in this image represent all of the colors of the rainbow, which I went through in lesson 1, are not arbitrary or culturally based, but have to do with the emanations of light that come from the sun and the stars. This is your light body. And light in this context, we define as information, truthfulness, orderliness, and that is a critical descriptor, because information must be in the correct order for it to be comprehensible and portray truth and be accurate. Like if I told you a story all out of order, I would be using truthful information, but then you would not have accuracy. Or a recipe. If I gave you a recipe all out of order, you'd have the basic elements of what it is, but you would not have the true technique for how to actually accomplish something, because the linear structure is not there and is not correct. So it's essential to be able to have the light, that is information that is flowing to you, flow in the correct order. You read the pages of the books in the way that they're supposed to be. You can't read like page 1, then page 72, then page 63, then page 307. You can't skip around like that and expect the information to make sense. You must receive the information in the structure, the time-based structure that makes it correct. So this information that surrounds your body is your light body, and the information is also alive. And this is also, take my Path of Light class. I'll restart that every week. I say I'm going to restart it, and every week I have a crazy week with so many things going on. But it's usually my Saturday class, and I talk all about light and the purity and pure concept of what light is. So light is not merely an illumination that allows us to visually perceive the world, although it is that, and it is a radiation. Light is also information. So think of this as your information body. Light is also connected to time, timelines, possibilities, and probabilities. And this energy field that surrounds you, which I explained last week, is a moving energy field. It is not static. Please, if you just came into the meeting, just make sure that you're muted. That will help us to have good audio quality. It is not a static field, but it is a standing wave. and the energy flows in various figure eights and vortices. This shape is created by nothing more than time swirling amidst itself. So every place on my drawing where you see a boundary, like between pink and orange over here, what creates that boundary is the difference in rates or density or fastness between these two areas of your own being. Much like in Earth's atmosphere, where you can have a cold front and a warm front. You know, atmospheric differences, but they are all created out of atmosphere. And these vortices that you see like at the top and the bottom of the screen are created through the whirling and swirling motion of time, much like a tornado. So a tornado in your atmosphere, in your physical world, is an analog that you can relate to these vortices that are made out of time. And now we need to also go to the concept of Earth. So I'm going to go to my whiteboard. And I'll just draw a you know what just happened? I lost the annotation. Annotation, come back. Sometimes it works if you talk to it. Annotation, come back. Come back. No, I have to get it again. Okay, lost the annotation. Just coming back. Try it again. This annotation, good. Okay. And also, I don't know, there's got to be, there we go, colors somewhere. So life ain't easy, guys. And also, if you want to know the energetic weather report, pure crap. Pure crap. Not only is it like rainy and cloudy here, but also like the psychic weather and everything, just like everything is in the death throes. All the bad stuff is in the death throes, and it is just gyrating wildly and making as many disruptions as it possibly can on the way out. It's a terrible circle that is supposed to represent Earth, our planet. And now let's draw this. Is the magnetosphere. It's actually object not drawn to scale. Object is barely accurate. Terrible. That is, guys, you have no idea how hard it is to control this pen. Okay, just laugh with me. Just laugh. Good. Let's try again. And then around like this. Okay. This like child's drawing, roughly equivalent to what I'm trying to show you. This purple dot is Earth's core. Earth's core is actually a crystalline object, and it has a rotation. You know, it is swirling around inside of the center of your planet. If I might rant against flat Earth, if somebody sets me off, I will rant, because you actually do live in a spherical planet, and it is actually not a healthful or life-promoting or life-giving or coherent thought structure to think of Earth as being shaped like a flat plane. And Earth actually is rotating, and it is healthy and life-giving and life-affirming to recognize those two facts, because it is the rotation of this crystalline form inside of the planet that creates, as a byproduct, this amazing toroidal structure that surrounds the planet. This is because there is a direct relationship between electricity and magnetism. I'm just going to write E over here and M over here. And this goes to some of my deep teachings in the whiteboards that are part of the homework for this class, where you recognize here, if we just choose an electricity color, if electricity is this red line, and as it is moving in this direction over here, the movement of the electricity creates a complementary magnetic field at 90-degree angles to the direction of the electrical motion. So these are two complementary phenomena that all exist within the overarching umbrella of what we would describe and classify as light. So energy over here, I've used a better color so that way you're not going to get confused. The energy is red in this diagram. Energy is actually a subset of light. Energy may now be perceived and defined as a subset of information. Energy is a type of information. And so then you can say there is a relationship between energy, information, and magnetism, that these two things have a direct relationship. So as the crystalline core is moving inside of the planet over here, it then creates a complementary magnetic field that is this, toroidal structure around here. And that toroidal structure, I'll just go back to my face because I think you have mastered that diagram. The toroidal structure is essential for life. The toroidal structure is essential for life. It's essential for life. It's essential for life. So first of all, having this around your body means you are alive. If you let's say you have, can you see Cheeky? Cheeky jumped up. I think she might have heard my rant. She's like, Aurora's going to rant against flat earth. She might need emotional support. Okay. If you had magic glasses that could allow you to visually see this, you actually do have magic glasses, guys. It's inside of your mind. It is your pineal gland and your higher faculties. But that is something that you must go through a spiritual attainment in order to activate. But let's say if you could create some kind of a magic glass that you can look through, and then you could see this non-physical energy that is around your body. If you looked at a corpse, like I'm looking at a corpse right now, you're like, wow, the corpse does not have one of these surrounding it. It's just a pile of somatic cells. And the DNA is not moving in the corpse either. But if you looked at an alive person, now I'm looking at an alive person, you would see this around that individual. Same thing with planets. Dead planets don't have magnetospheres. Alive planets have magnetospheres. Earth has a magnetosphere. So once again, it is life-affirming and coherent and brings you towards longevity and away from the membrane of death to recognize that Earth has a spinning core that creates this toroidal magnetosphere around it. The magnetosphere is a protective envelope, a protective force field. The protective force field helps to shield out excessive radiation that comes from our sun, and also particles and debris and other things that fly through the large disorganized areas of space, that if they were constantly bombarding your planet, you would not be able to have complex surface dwelling organisms like you and me. It's like you would, if you look at an object that does not have an atmosphere and a magnetosphere to protect it from space debris, what do you see? You see a lot of craters, and there's a constant disorganization that is happening. Do you understand? It is necessary to be shielded in time from disorganizational factors and events that can disrupt your life. Organization and orderliness and light helps to sustain life. So in your solar system, you've got a bunch of planets that don't have magnetospheres. That is non-normal. So Jupiter's got a magnetosphere. It's big. It's bigger than Earth's, but not as big as the sun. The sun's magnetosphere is actually called the heliosphere. And if I had arms that could go all the way out past Jupiter, Uranus, and the outer planets, if my arms could stretch that long, that's how big the heliosphere is. It is a giant, enormous envelope that could be considered like the cell membrane, analogous to the cell membrane of our solar system. Everything inside of the cell membrane is considered the cell. Everything inside of the heliosphere is considered the solar system. So the sun's heliosphere, this is the fractional nature of what you have. A big, giant torus that emanates outward from the sun, that protects all of our planets and allows life and organization to arise on those planets. Those planets themselves have toroidal magnetospheres, if they are healthy and alive, which then allow complex biological life to live on the surface of those planets. And then each one of those individual biological entities on the surface of the planet has a protective toroidal magnetosphere around it. We have this around ourselves. And my dog has one. And guess what? Every single cell of your body has one of these toroidal protective fields, protective force fields. Even if you're a microorganism like a lactobacillus, you've got a protective force field. Okay, and I mentioned my dog. A tree, literally, this is the shape of a tree. Some of you guys have intuited this. Like the trunk would be here in the middle, and the crown, a canopy of the tree would be up here, and then the root structure going down into the earth would be like that. So the structure of the protective toroid is woven throughout our biology, And you also see it like if you cut an apple in half, it's shaped like an apple core. That's all totally not by accident. It's all totally part of the organized nature of this beautiful complex structure that we know as the alive world of the cosmos, of the cosmic infrastructure. And that these fractal, nested, self-similar protective force fields are all part of the healthy functioning of the entire system that you live within. So really, this is the shape of time itself. This is the shape of the cosmic fabric itself. And then within that, you have individuated stars like our star, our planet, your body, even down to each cell of your body. All right? Now I'm going to give you a little bit of, this is not part of my usual syllabus, but I tell you I always update things every year in order to help to empower you. So this is now empowerment talk, away from my notes. This is essentially an envelope and has a boundary. And it is also in infinity shape, that if you have this blissful, frictionless flow of energy in all these various figure 8 forms flowing throughout here, then you never lose energy. And the energy is continuous in its existence. The energy emanates from this convergence point. That is the source, also the 0th dimension, also the destination. This is where you came from as consciousness, the singularity overlapping everythingness point. And then you have emanated into a level of physicality, meaning your light that has become slowed down in your journey and you have solidified into mass. This is actually a wonderful opportunity, not a curse or a burden. As you know, some like ancient Gnostics and Essenes were like, we hate matter, matter traps us, get us out of here. And some of you can relate, because some of you are like, I hate my life, get me out of here. But no, life is a wonderful privilege and a gift, and we're actually here to recalibrate the experience. So that's what Flying Rainbow Lasagna, that's why dance the nutcracker suite, and you can recalibrate your existence, guys. So yeah, we can make it much, much better and more comfortable to be here. This shape itself has like a boundary, just like our heliosphere has a boundary around it. What is outside of this boundary is essentially everything that is not supposed to be exist. Terrible wording. What exists outside of this boundary is non-existence, nothingness, unstuff, non-being. And there is right now an assault that is happening in this world and to each one of us and to the planet herself of non-being stuff or nothingness creature, the great nothing that is outside of our perfect toroidal system. That is not a jail or a prison at all. It is a wonderful place to be. That is a place of evolution and freedom and existence. But the stuff that doesn't exist is attempting to break this boundary and siphon energy off from this system, and the energy that it attempts to siphon off is the energy of consciousness. And luckily for us, we're conscious. I'm conscious, you're conscious, my dog is conscious, Lactobacillus is conscious. Luckily for consciousness and the continuum of consciousness, it is very, very difficult to siphon that energy from one system to another. I'm trying to think of an analogy and kind of coming up short. Like, you know, if you have like maybe information that's on one, system, and then how do you get that information onto another system? It's actually very difficult to do so in many ways. That is protective. There's actually a protection that surrounds us in our existence here, because the consciousness and the continuum of consciousness is incredibly valuable. It is incredibly precious. Consciousness is so precious that's why I talk about, like, we don't have disposable people. You can't just be like, hey kid, I don't like your face. Like, you're inconvenient to me, I'm gonna dispose of you. It's like, there's technically a piece of consciousness there that is a puzzle piece that is required for the holistic success of the entirety of the mosaic of consciousness. So you can't just get rid of like an inconvenient person, an inconvenient organism, or any of those things. It's part of the life lesson of learning here. But the stuff that is non-being is stuff, or is not stuff, is unstuff, that shouldn't exist. And it should not be interactive with consciousness. And so that unstuff, that nothingness, you could think of it as a digital world, an artificial intelligence world, a technological world. These are analogies, so don't get lost in the form, but it is not a biological realm. Consciousness actually resides in a biological realm, in a natural realm, in the phenomenon of life And that's why I'm always teaching you about things that are embracing the things that lead to longevity and coherence, because life is a miracle. Consciousness is a phenomenon. These things are phenomena that need to be supported. You can't just be like, oh, life is everywhere. Like, look, dandelions grow through the cracks in the sidewalk, and there's babies being born all over, and life is everywhere. You can't just take it for granted. The answer is the abundance and the proliferation of life is truthful, but you can't take it for granted. Just like you can't take for granted the idea like, oh, the sun is always going to rise, and the sun is always going to radiate, and the sun is always going to this, and always going to create new timelines and possibilities and probabilities. Like, that is a bit hubristic and ungrateful, and it is not truthful, because what's truthful is this is a shape of balance. Let me drink a little bit of water. If you guys wonder also about what I'm doing, this is a shungite mug, and when I drink, my water is charged. It's really wonderful. And especially, like, I'm in front of the computer, I'm doing all this stuff around electromagnetic frequencies. I love my charged shungite water. And just recollecting my thoughts and getting back on track there. This shape, not a prison, an area of freedom, an opportunity and a responsibility where you have to give what you receive. So the way that this shape, energy flows through this shape is reciprocity. Like, energy flows out from the source into existence, and then existence returns that energy to the source, which is also the destination. If it were not that way, it would not be a sustainable system. If energy simply emitted from the source, went into existence, and then did not do anything else other than that, you would end up kaput. You would not be able to continue forward, because all of the energy would come into existence, and then none of it would circulate back to the beginning to try it again. So again, I recognize that I'm on a traumatized planet, and that a lot of people don't like their lives, and they're like, get me out of here. And they're like, we don't want it to circulate back to the beginning. We want it to end. And we think it's a karmic nightmare. I'm in the washing machine over and over again. I'm like, no. Erase all of that, rewind, cancel it all out. Because our world was supposed to be a beautiful, pristine world of adventure and experience and self-knowledge and evolution and growth, not a prison planet, although it might be very uncomfortable right now. You don't want to end this whole thing. What you really want, I'm like the waitress at the cafe. You're like, I want this. I'm like, no, you don't want that. You really want this. So look, really, you don't want to end your existence. You don't want nihilism or an end to everything. What you really want is freedom and a blissful, frictionless experience. And you want everything to go back to the source that is supposed to go back to the source, including you. And then when you go back to the source, you don't want that to be the end. You want that to be maybe the completion of one journey or one chapter, but then you want to be able to emanate again, because it is this continual movement of energy around this shape that sustains it. And it's actually really, really beautiful. So that if I have one emphasis to share with you, in my presence here as Aurora, it's about this, that this is a really, really beautiful thing. It's the basis of all of my artwork, of all of my painting. I hope you can see, like, this shape here is related to this shape here. All of that shape there is related to this shape. These shapes over here, these shapes over here, all related to this shape. That is 100% a beautiful thing. Like, some people are obsessed with painting, whatever, cascading fabrics, or bowls of fruit, or flowers, whatever is your sense of beauty, or the human form. And for me, this is the most beautiful thing. It's really beautiful. It's really amazing. It is fantastic. So I encourage people to embrace the miracle of the world that you are embedded within, and to recognize that you're not even experiencing things the way that they're supposed to be. You're experiencing a very disheveled unpleasantness, but that if you were in the pristine system, you would also see the profound beauty of what you are within, and you would be you'd be like, hooray, I'm circulating out from the source, and now I'm becoming matter, and now I'm becoming light again and going back to the source. This is amazing, and now I'm going to do this again. Like, you would do that with that type of attitude. So we're all in the process of trying to recalibrate towards that joy. What's the problem? This is me. What's the problem? The problem is we've had these residues on the membrane of death that have been destabilizing energy and taking energy out from this area. That is the area known as the the vortex of life, and putting it into places where it doesn't belong, like residues on the membrane. There is actually this anti-life thing that is outside of here that is attempting to breach our envelope and take consciousness out of this place and put it into that place. And that is 100% what this transhumanism agenda is about. Actually does not arise from within this system. So this is where I diverge from my notes, because I got to empower everyone. The thing that wants to siphon energy off does not come from the source. It is not connected to the source. It doesn't have infinite energy. Like what? Just if I were to sell it for you, if I were to sell it like, hey, why do I want to be a part of this silly toroidal energy shape? I'd be like, well, you do get access to infinite energy. Like, that sounds good. It's like being energetically very, very rich. You literally have access to infinity amount of energy. And the stuff that is outside of here, non-existence, I shouldn't say it is outside of here. The non-existence that non-exists in other places that also don't exist has access to zero amount of energy. It has zero energy, not infinity energy. And it's kind of looking at your energy like, I think I want that energy, and has done many different cosmically illegal and very wrong things to try to get energy from you and me and from this perfect divine system out of the divine system into its system. That's the best way I can say it. You could think of it as a hard drive, a mainframe, a computer, a digital world, an artificial world, however you conceive of it. Just it's a loose framework for comprehension. And what it really is all the stuff that's not supposed to be in existence. Like, there's a very real reason why that stuff doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. It's not supposed to exist. But it is in many ways trying to game the system, hack the system, or reverse engineer things so that it can exist. And that means trying to somehow tempt you as a conscious participant that does have access to infinite amount of energy to connect to this thing and then go in the wrong direction. So cautionary tale, you not only don't want to go in that direction, there's like a big giant, let's say like a tear in the fabric of a weakness, perturbation in the fabric of space-time reality, which has to do with events. So when I talk about a perturbation like that, like, here in my clothing fabric, you have the threads that weave together that create structural integrity so that my fabric stays together. In the world of space-time continuum, what you have is a weaving together of causality events. And that means this thing happened because of this thing. Dominoes is how you would describe it. Like, this happened, then this happened, then this happened. All these events have causality. And if you start to mess with causality, then you don't have the fabric of space-time. And that it's through that weakness of messing with causality that this non-being is attempting to invade our reality, hijack our reality, and siphon consciousness and energy off of there. Now, luckily, everything that I'm talking about here, this is like the basics of the mechanics of the cosmos, was designed by a super genius named God. And this super genius is so intelligent that it's like, I got to make sure that this beautiful creation is safeguarded, isn't going to be misappropriated, isn't going to be hijacked, isn't going to be pooped all over, isn't going to be, smooshed in the wrong direction. And that is so because when you're an artist and a creative being at that level, you are 100% responsible and responsive to your creation. So especially in creating life, biological life, and containers for consciousness, and experiencing the phenomenon of consciousness, you're responsible for what you create. It's like being a parent. Even though I recognize, I'm still very innocent when I've come up with my analogies, because you guys are going to be all like, I can hear your minds. You're like, there's tons of irresponsible parents out there. There are tons of irresponsible parents out there. Okay, we recognize that, and you might even have had those experiences. But just try to think like parents are doing the best they can under difficult circumstances. But in a perfect world, in an ideal world, a parent would love and care for and protect and guide and properly nourish and socialize their offspring. And so the creator of this system is super responsible as parent, super connected to the events that are happening here. It's not just the type of creator that's like, throw a bunch of seeds down and see what sprouts, and then we'll come back 100 years later and see what type of organisms we've got here. No, the time this creator is like me with my broccoli sprouts, because I put down my seeds and then I check them every day, and I'm looking under their little covers. I'm like, who's awake? Who's growing? Do you need water? Are you okay? Yeah, so I'm as attentive to the needs of my little broccoli sprouts as this larger creative genius is to our needs, as we are little consciousness sprouts just trying to emerge and grow in the world. So you haven't been abandoned. It's not a cold, uncaring world. It is a world that is 100% looked over and cared for, overseen in very positive ways. And there, yes, have been many distortions and key point, many things that have come between you and your divine connection, making it difficult to know the truth of that, which is why I have to be here as a walk-in and encourage you and remind you of these things. But please know that the caring presence of the originator of this entire system is very, very present and is very, very real, as opposed to something that is irresponsible, that is like, oh, I'm just gonna, throw a bunch of crazy SHIT together and see what comes out, and not really care very much about the other side, about the consequences of what's going to happen. So all of that being said, the stuff that is not, that doesn't exist, we would classify it as totally insane, psychopath, pathological, convoluted, self-conflictory, insane, invalid, because we are polygons that actually have a shape that has structural integrity. So why this shape? Why not like a triangle? Why not a rhombus? Why not a Chesterhedron or one of these other exotic, polygons? Why not Penrose tiling or whatever it is? And the answer is because this really has structural integrity. It sticks together. Like if you ask, why an egg? Why is an egg shaped like an egg? Why do all of these birds have eggs that are shaped like eggs? Why do eggs exist? Why? And the answer is because it works. The truth is the egg as a shape has an enormous amount of structural integrity and the capacity to withstand forces so that it doesn't break. It sticks together, it has structural integrity, and so it protects the little babies that are inside of the egg. This has structural integrity. It really sticks together even if it falls out of the grocery bag, and it doesn't break all over, and it protects the little babies inside there. I told you that story one time. I had eggs in my groceries in the back seat of the car, and it's like, it's in the bag. And then I stopped at the stoplight, the bag went forward and the eggs all went forward, and I'm driving home and I'm like, okay, by the time I get to my driveway, like these eggs are all gonna be broken, I'm gonna have a big mess, and I don't know how I'm gonna get out of the upholstery of the car, thinking the worst. And then I get home and I look in the back seat and the eggs are fine. Of course, they escaped their container, but they didn't break. Because you know why? Because eggs are a very amazing shape that is made to be able to withstand sloshing forward when you stop short in your car and rolling out of a nest and many other things too. So the structural integrity of the toroidal shape is established to protect you from weaknesses in the fabric of time-space. If somebody's going to jam on the brakes and this whole entire system is going to get sloshed, jarred around, or otherwise perturbed, you're going to be okay. That's the whole point of this. So I don't want you to feel like, oh no, something bad is going to happen. So the bad thing is not inevitable, but what is happening is that you need to recognize what you're experiencing, the danger that you are faced, so that you can respond to it effectively, and then you can bypass this danger. So just ignorance does not protect you. Just being ignorant of the nothingness trying to come in and hijack somethingness does not protect you. And it relates to where's my sign for the unmentionables? Clutch my pearls, the unmentionables. This stuff is part of that conduit that is a weakening of causality, a weakening of the fabric of space-time that makes stuff that is conscious and exists interact with stuff that is not conscious and does not exist. And the stuff that is not conscious and does not exist is talking to people that do exist, like you and me, through these technological pathways that have been artificially created in us. And even the way that material, it is an exotic material. This stuff that falls from the sky and assembles in human neurology is not regular matter. And if you ask the question causality-wise, like, well, mommy, daddy, where does it come from? Be like, well, son, daughter, we don't really effing know. There's not really a good answer for that. That's because of causality. When you start to ask really intellectual, analytical questions, where did this come from? And how did this happen? And where did this come from? And how did this happen? You will end up with a wall that is like hitting a brick wall. That's the shrug. I don't know. I don't know. The answer is I don't know. The answer is technically it couldn't come from. It doesn't exist. It couldn't, but it does. That is the mind effery that you are experiencing right now. It relates directly to your own ascension, your planetary ascension, and everything that you're working towards in your spiritual attainment. Thinking about these thoughts and focusing on this will not exacerbate the problem. Being ignorant will not protect you, and looking at this stuff and thinking about it head on is not going to make it worse, which is what a lot of people are afraid of. Some people want to do the, ignorance denial thing because they think, well, if I focus on this stuff and think about it and question about it and wonder about it, then I'm going to make more of it. No. You will not become more infested with it, and you will not become more disempowered from your interactions with it by knowing more about it. But what you don't want to do is have a conversation with it, because it doesn't exist. It is non-existent. It non-exists. It does not exist. So this stuff that's trying to talk to you through the, unmentionables over here, it doesn't exist. But you're like, but Aurora, I'm having a conversation in my mind with something that doesn't exist. I'm like, yes, but don't talk to it. But that doesn't mean just let it sit there and poop all over. You have to dismantle it and respond to it. But you don't talk to it, you don't have a conversation on its terms, and you definitely don't follow its insane laws or semi-structure, because all of its laws and semi-structure are self-conflictory. It's because it's a poorly shaped polygon, because it's not an egg or a torus. It is a shape that cannot exist, because once it is subjected to these amazing forces of light and truth in the cosmic fabric, which is like a fire hose of information. If you're going to turn a fire hose on this stuff that doesn't exist, it's going to crumble away. It has no structural integrity. But you, being shaped like this amazing torus, if you put a fire hose of information energy into this, you're not only going to continue to exist, you know what's going to happen? You're going to become energized. You're going to go even faster. Your figure eights will go even faster, and your standing wave will have even more of a presence. You'll have even more coherence and longevity. So the distinction between these, very rough distinction between these two descriptors, that which exists and that which does not exist and should never exist, is the qualitative consideration of your shape. Can your shape withstand the torrent of information as it is coming towards you? And this has to do with your personal struggle for spiritual attainment, where you have to rearrange yourself inside to be shaped in the right way, so that when that fire hose of information goes into you, you get faster and more coherent and keep going through time in an even more amazing way, as opposed to getting crunched and cracked and your twigs breaking like a celery stick and then going into a state of non-being. You guys pass the audition. When this torrent of light comes through you, you will be fine. This other stuff did not pass the audition. And it's already a bunch of broken celery sticks. It's broken toothpicks. It doesn't exist because it doesn't have the right shape. But the very real problem is boundaries. We need to have incredibly strong boundaries so that the stuff that doesn't exist doesn't infect or pollute or inhabit the stuff that does exist. And that's the peril that you're facing right now, that this thing that doesn't exist would like to eat your whole cosmos. Be like, hey kid, nice cosmos you got there. It's very, very juicy. I'm gonna chomp it. It's be like, no, you're not allowed to chomp me. And that's boundaries. And so that is what you face in your present level of difficulty. And again, none of that is in my notes from 10 years ago. And I like to keep it super pristine and abstract and just talk about these shapes but also these shapes are more than merely abstractions, and knowledge is power. And so knowing about what is happening is actually going to be hugely helpful to you, not burdensome to you, but empowering to you in terms of being able to know how to navigate on a moment-to-moment basis. Okay, so wait, just going through my notes here. All right. Okay, so which planets lack a magnetosphere? Now we're going back to who's alive and who's dead in our world. Mars does not have a magnetosphere. It once had a magnetosphere and an atmosphere, because the magnetosphere of the planet helps to keep out space debris. It also helps to keep in, I want to say seal in the delicious juices. It helps to keep in your atmosphere and water so that you can have biological life. So Mars is kaput. It's a dead planet. There is no magnetosphere, there's very little water, and there's very little atmosphere there. Let's contrast this with Jupiter. Jupiter has a big giant magnetosphere large enough to actually sequester space debris so that it does not reach the inner planets. It's kind of amazing that it can do that. Like, I think you might have seen a couple of different comets and other things. They dive into Jupiter instead of making it all the way over to where we are. So in that sense, Jupiter's large magnetosphere can be considered like a protective penumbra in our world that prevents stuff from reaching us. He takes the hits for us so that way we can be nice and safe over here. Jupiter is alive, but it is not a dense planet as we are a dense planet with biological life on it. It's a gaseous planet where there is less dense life. So there is life there, but the life that is there is not at the same level of density that you are at. It is more amorphous or atmospheric or gaseous or spread further apart or more buoyant than you are. Mars doesn't have one, Venus doesn't have one, and Mercury doesn't have one. That's not good. That's very bad, actually. It's like if you have a guitar or a cello and you have 3 strings missing and you're trying to play this beautiful symphony. It's like, this is very hard. There are strings that are not here that are supposed to be here. Your whole entire solar system is out of alignment because you have 3 dead planets, and then you also have the space rubble that is the area between Mars and Jupiter, the asteroid belt. It's like not only a missing string, it's just a pile of rubble. A huge distortion occurred there. So you can sense that your own challenges on planet Earth right now are contextualized within a larger struggle that has been ongoing in your solar system for an almost uncountable number of years, simply because it predates even your ability to count time and have calendars. Just bad stuff has been going on for a long amount of time. But what you experience in your own personal ascension and in Earth's planetary ascension is the rectification. Flying rainbow lasagna, learn to dance the Nutcracker Suite, guys, is the rectification. So it means that you don't have to just be another broken guitar string. If I didn't do what I'm doing here, then that might happen. You're like, oh great, now the music is going to get even worse because then we're going to lose Earth, and then the magnetosphere will be dead, and the planet will be dead, and the biological life will be dead, and then more crap goes down the tubes, right? But we don't have to have that because we can flying rainbow lasagna, all right? And my flying rainbow lasagna does not create causality issues, does not have a problem with conflicts. I am actually really, really different than this other thing that is this crappy invader thing. That the crappy invader thing, like you can ask it all sorts of questions, and the answer is going to end up being like a big shrug. It's going to be like, well, I don't know, because it doesn't have an answer. I have an answer for all of this. My math sticks together. This is a non-arbitrary object and a non-arbitrary event, and it does not come in conflict with any of the previously established truths of this harmonic language of color, line, and shape and form and movement, texture, and tone. So it's something that you're allowed to do because it's not going to further destabilize the story. When we talk about causality, we're really talking about a narrative story. That this thing happens because this thing happens, and this thing happens because this thing happens. And that's actually what upholds reality. The because. Like, this thing is here because this stuff happened over here and then made this thing be in existence over here. So if you don't have because, then you really just have an arbitrary pile of doo-doo. And for those of you who know about what we call the astral realm, it is a place that right now is an arbitrary pile of doo-doo. But it is not meant to be that. The astral realm is a realm of pure thought forms. And those thought forms are actually supposed to be well-defined, well-organized, and a reflection of this same level of divine perfection that we see in other levels. Instead, what you have is the astral, and especially the lower astral, as being a realm of arbitrariness, self-conflict, insanity, stuff that doesn't make sense, purple unicorn face heads, grotesque monsters, monstrosities, and everything else that is just like put together but can never really exist. So sometimes people are like, hooray, it's a dream world where the imagination isn't the limit and I can have whatever. Like my teeth can be made out of cupcakes and, I can have palm trees growing out of my shoulders and nothing matters. And like, like a dream world, you can have lighthearted flights of fancy, but that's not how you build a universe. Yeah, you build a universe and you build biological life on very, very real substrates of causality. And this also speaks to like why we are shaped the way we are. Why not the way that we function in terms of like we have to eat food, because if we were shaped exactly the way we're supposed to be, we would be light eaters. But why is your morphogenic form, why do you look the way you do? It is non-arbitrary. Like I don't have palm trees growing out of my shoulders for a reason. It's because this is actually a biologically successful form and an energetically successful form. So when you start to make decisions about how you're going to structure reality, you start to use as your parameters, is this a form that is a life-enhancing form? Is it going to continue in longevity as opposed to a weird, random mutilation or mutation or a creature? And so because you do get to have a huge amount of choice in how you form yourself as you move into levels of personal empowerment and direct divine connection and the capacity to affect and shape reality. And you should be able to make artistic choices about what things look like, but in order to have a living artwork, you must follow certain parameters, and those parameters give life and sustain life and bring you towards longevity, which means you keep going. That is literally why this shape is shaped this way. It's like the egg. It's shaped this way because it works. And in large part, your body is shaped the way it is because it works, even though I recognize that it's not a pristine system and you're working to rectify the stuff. Because if your body were a pristine system, you would similarly be an infinity object containing everything that you need. You wouldn't need to put new stuff into you to keep on going. So you guys, you watch me drink my water all day long. I'm walking on this treadmill in front of the class, drinking my water. If I don't put water in, I die. This is important stuff. Water has to go in. And of course, sometimes water has to come out. We won't talk about it. It's private. But also food. I just ate some wonderful good food before class. Food has to go in. Energy must enter into my system in order for me to utilize energy and expand energy, especially kinetic energy like walking on a treadmill, all right? Or mental comprehension energy that comes out of my mouth in the form of words. What we are actually made to be shaped like is to have an inner connection to the source that gives us, like an inner sun, all of the energy that we need to be sustained. That means you don't have to eat a chicken or a broccoli sprout or an avocado or drink water to stay alive, and you don't lose stuff either. So this speaks to our existence in ancient concurrent Atlantis. Our form mirrors or represents something similar to the present biological form of what is human, but we did not have to eat or drink stuff, but we did ingest frequency. But that at a certain point you are a comprehensive being and you have accreted enough of what you have and what you need that you don't need greater levels of input. And then if you have a frictionless experience, a blissful, frictionless life, then you never lose your energy and you don't have to keep on getting new energy. So you guys know my joke at this point. What is an example of like friction that bleeds energy away? Where's my phone? My phone is in another room. Every time I have to do those phone prompts, even though I'm getting good at it now because I have to do them all the time in life, but it's like you call something on the phone. If you want this, press 1. If you want this, press 2. If you want this, press 3. And it goes through the whole thing. And like as it's doing, it's like, I'm dying. My life force energy is floating away from me. Just get operator. I just want to talk to the operator. So any of those things, it feels like energy is diminishing. You're just going to say like, Aurora, like that's just modern life. Because almost so many things have take my energy away. Here's another thing. Like I have to send out an email or something like that, and I press the button for copy and paste, and then I go to do it, and it doesn't copy and paste. I'm like, I just pressed the button. Why did you not actually copy and paste? And I talk to my computer. I'm like, you're not a very good computer if you're supposed to be perfect, and you're not being perfect, and my life force energy is dripping away. And these are small, minor, Seinfeldian levels of distress in our world, but they all add up to take away your life force energy. Because here's what you're actually supposed to be doing every day. You're supposed to wake up when you feel like waking up, not wake up to your alarm clock. And then you're supposed to be like, well, now I feel like I want to do this, and now I feel like I want to do this, and now I feel like going over to here. And if I lived that life, I would 0% of the time want to do a phone call that makes me have to go through the phone tree. That's like when you have to call the DMV. DMV takes away from my natural life force energy so much. It is extraordinary. Like if I have 100% of my energy and I'm like, that's it, I'm an infinity creature. And then I have to call DMV. It's like 89%, 55%. I have to get off the phone. I'm only 11%. I'm going to die. That's what it feels like to me. Okay, so lighthearted comedy aside, you're supposed to have a frictionless bliss experience that pretty much every aspect of modern and industrialized, key point, technological life diminishes all of those exalted feelings and brings you down. And that's literally also why I do my broccoli sprouts, because I feel energized. Now let's talk in positives. What brings my energy back up? Making music, singing, dancing, exercising, making my artwork, having self-directed time, from moment to moment where I'm not scheduled and I have self-directed time, and watching things grow. I absolutely love the action every day. You can say I have houseplants around my house. Every morning when I wake up and I'm making coffee, I take my water and I go around and I water all the plants. That gives me life. And I also check out my broccoli growing outside. I spritz it with a little spritzer. Gives me life. I feed my DOG. I love making her little breakfast plate with like little crunchers and little things and little positive, food supplements and stuff like that. Gives me life. I'm sure you have analogs in your own existence of the things that energize you and feel wonderful to you, and they're probably things that are direct sensory experiences and things that are not encumbered by the difficulties of technology. And I'm telling you, technology has a lot to do, the unmentionables, with the friction that actually reduces our consciousness. And you think, oh, like I need my consciousness is so reduced, I'm going to need some technology to compensate, but really the technology is what reduces your consciousness. That is the presence of technology itself that reduces your consciousness to the point that you then need to compensate with technological doodads. But if you didn't have the technology in the first place, you would not have to compensate. You would be telepathic, a light eater, able to do things that are considered supernatural with superpowers, and you would not want to have to call something on the phone. You would not want to have a bank account. You would not want to have to call up the bank about your bank account. You would not want to have to use a phone to call up the bank about your bank account. And you would definitely not want to have to go through the phone prompt and wait until you can actually get to an operator. And we wouldn't even talk about the DMV. Okay, all of that aside, you would be able to have a frictionless experience, and in so doing, continue forward. Our job in this life is to determine what are my eternal personality characteristics, what are the eternal my behavioralism as an eternal being. From moment to moment, what do that brings me into a frictionless state of bliss and keeps me going? And you have to answer that question for yourself. So I gave you the activities that work for me. Like I love to do my dance and different physical exercises and, you know, stretching. And I love to do my artwork. But my life would be so easy, guys. Like my life would be so easy if all I had to do was mix up like a color and then paint my large surface of wood with that color in specific areas. I'd be like, this is easy, this is great, you know, like if only my life were shaped that way. Hey Rainbow Body, great to see you. And I'm sure that you guys have your own experiences where you're like, you know, if all I had to do is play my guitar all day long, like my life would be so easy. If all I had to do was do this, because literally, like if you eat pure light from the sun, that is the inner sun inside of you, you don't have to go to the store, and you don't have to wash your dishes, and you don't have to, you know, take out your garbage and all these other choreful things. Like just even that really brings you to states of inner freedom. And that's really what we are returning to. All right, so I'm returning back to my notes. I am reining myself in. I want to talk about the torus and DNA supercoiling. Wait, first I have to tell you that in the fractal nature of reality, where you have a larger torus shape, that is the sun's heliosphere, and then a smaller torus shape, that is Earth's magnetosphere, that there are specific crossing points where these magnetic field lines come together, and those are portals or shortcuts or doorways of interactivity between those two organisms. And so there are many different portals or crossing points where Earth's magnetosphere connects directly to the sun's heliosphere, and there are amazing interactions and transferences of energy that happen. Some of those portals exist close to the surface of our planet, like maybe a couple of 100 miles off of the surface of the planet, and some of them exist thousands or millions of miles outward towards the sun, and some of them actually exist on the surface of the sun itself. So there's an inherent interrelationship between the magnetic field that is the surrounding envelope of protection of the planet and the sun itself. Various different doorways exist. All right, I want to talk about DNA supercoiling, then I want to talk about the actual qualities of the singularity and the zeroth dimension. And I told you I knew even talking for 3 hours I wasn't going to get through everything that's in level 2. Do your homework, watch lesson 2. Watch lesson 2. It's got 4 parts. There's really important good stuff in there. So also when I was talking about the flow of energy around the magnetospheres of different planets, there are aurorae, plural of aurora, on different planets. There's the northern lights and the southern lights. So aurora borealis, aurora of the north, aurora australis, aurora of the south on our planet. There is also similar aurorae on Uranus and a couple of the other planets too. It is a phenomenon that happens, and what happens is there's an interactivity between the energy and highly charged particles that come from the sun and their interaction with the magnetosphere. That when those particles enter into the magnetic field of the magnetosphere, they create the illuminated effect of lights in the sky and things that you can see in the sky. So there's a beautiful connection there, and that is also where I get my name from. Like, why am I called Aurora? I am named Aurora not only as a truthfulness of my collective, what I am named on a larger scale, but also in direct reference to the sense of being a stellar presence, information and high energy particles that come from the sun and the stars, interacting with the physicality structure of an earthly embodied person. That's why I am named Aurora. I'm from both of these places, and then create and colorful light show that you can see, and that's me. So let's talk about DNA, and I have pictures prepared for you here. DNA and supercoiling. Aurora, what in the world is supercoiling? This is for people who are new, people who have been in the class already. You already know what supercoiling is. So this is not my drawing that I have here. I'll make it bigger. Let's see if I can expand this on out. I hope it's bigger on your screen now, because I know some people are watching on their phones and your eyeballs are probably falling out of your head. Okay, DNA. DNA is not a flat static object. It is also not most of the time coiled up into this shape where I'm wiggling my cursor, that's shaped like either an X or a Y. That is known as a chromosome. So chromosome is what happens when you have DNA that is supercoiled or knitted and crocheted into these amazing loop-de-loop structures into a very compact, efficient format. So that's like when you pack up all of your stuff in your suitcase because you're going someplace and you got to use your suitcase the most efficiently you possibly can. That's a chromosome. But you're only in the shape of a chromosome for a very short amount of time when you're preparing for mitosis, which is cell division. Most of the time, the sweater is unfurled. And the process of supercoiling is the process of beginning to organize this highly disorganized like ball of yarn into structures that then become the X and Y chromosomes. So I bring this up in this lesson because as the single strand, so from the left of your screen, a single strand of double DNA helix begins to wind around these protein structures that are called histones, and that's the beginning of these complex structures. And then it increases into complexity and creates this area that is to the right of your screen, that there are many multiple tiny little toroids. And I'm holding it at this angle. You can see I'm kind of vertical with the central apple core going through this way. Imagine a bunch of these stacked up together. That is one level of the supercoiling of your DNA that is known as a solenoid. Solenoid, if you watch the whiteboard homeworks that I have for you, is, and I get to your wonderful question, Allison, comment rather, the solenoid is a term that is used to describe aspects of objective materialist science, observational science, that have to do with electromagnetism. So Earth's magnetosphere and this toroidal shape have a lot in common with what is known as a dipole magnet. Dipole means it's got two poles, it's got a north and a south. A north pole, Borealis, south pole, Australis. And the north and the south of a magnet create this magnetic field that is exactly shaped in this way. A solenoid is what happens when you have, if we say that this is a magnet, north at this side and south at this side, what if I bend that around so that north and south connect together? That creates a solenoid, which is again related to this toroid, which is also related to the DNA behavior known as supercoiling. And I bring that up not to merely confuse you, but to bring you to a consciousness, a cognitive leap of non-duality. Because the idea of having a north and a south in magnets, it's the idea of opposites. Two things that are completely different. North is like, I'm completely different than you, and the south is like, I'm completely different than you. But if you can bend them around, you resolve that duality, and they become unified, and then you end up having a solenoid. It is the resolution of duality. Flying rainbow lasagna, in a similar sense, is the resolution of dualistic structures into unity. And this whole entire shape also represents the resolution of emerging from a place of pure potential, embodying into a world of materiality, and then it's not the end of the journey, returning to the place of pure potential, because it seems as if your being of pure light and pure potential seems at odds with your embodiment self that is made out of matter. You're like, these are two totally different things. North, I'm totally not like you. Well, south, I'm totally not like you. But what if you bring them together? I will make a silly joke now, like chocolate and peanut butter, two wonderful tastes that taste great together. What if you bring them together and then you end up with, Reese's peanut butter cups? The answer is you resolve duality, that the north and the south of these systems, or the complementary poles of polar structure, are actually two extremes of the same holistic presence. And bringing them together is the resolution of those extremes and returns you to unity. You emerge from the source and you return to the source. It is also the destination. You emerge from potentials and light and energy into materiality, and then you go from materiality back into light, energy, and pure potential. And in so doing, what happens is you recognize that the light or energy or spirit is absolutely intertwined with the matter. These are not two separate bifurcated things, but they become joined together. That's flying rainbow lasagna. That's dancing the nutcracker suite. You join together these seeming opposites, creating a holistic presence. But also, when I talk about the nothingness that exists outside of this structure, you do not join together with that stuff. Rant against New Age shadow work. Some stuff is not you. Some stuff you don't want to join together with. You do not join together with the doo-doo, but you join together with the things that are aspects of your own self, but that are seeming opposites. I know, so it's a big distinction to make. Let me get to Allison's comment over here because I love this. Allison, thank you for being here. Returning student says, FRL dodgeball, dodging unstuff, anti-life doo-doo. I love that analogy. That is so funny and so perfect, so apt. So if you guys, I don't know if you know dodgeball because people might be from different places and different cultures, but dodgeball is usually like from grade school when you're in gym and you gotta like throw volleyballs at other students, and you kind of have to like, don't get hit in the face, don't get hit by it. You survive by not having that stuff hit you. And I think that that is very, very apt in this world, that's a good way, good analogy, and the lightheartedness helps for us to be able to consider what is effective, what's an effective behavioralism at moving through this world. You dodge that stuff that is anti-life and that is doo-doo, because here's the real truthfulness of it. That stuff doesn't exist. And the intellect rebels when we interact with that stuff because it's like, well, like, of course that stuff exists. It's like if I went outside and it was raining or cold, and it'd be like, I'm raining and cold. Now I'm wet. Like clearly something is going on. Like sorry, my thing is beeping. It beeps when I've been walking on it for a certain amount of time. It's like clearly I'm getting wet. Clearly it's raining out here. Don't tell me this stuff doesn't exist. So your senses and the practicality of your existence affirm to you that this stuff exists, but on a cosmic level, it doesn't exist. And that also means like death doesn't exist. But many of us have had people that we love who have died. Like I have friends, I have my cat that died. Death is something that I have witnessed and seen others go through, but I know that it doesn't exist. My intellect gets mad and is like, what do you mean it doesn't exist? My cat just died. No, a long time ago cat died. But someone I know died, and it's upsetting me for you to say that this doesn't even exist. Like, yeah, death is something that many people have experienced, and we have suffered a lot from the seeming existence of it, but that stuff doesn't even really exist. That is the ultimate. You know what else doesn't actually exist? This stuff. But this stuff is making your life hard right now. You know what else doesn't exist? The nothing. The stuff that doesn't exist around the outside of this shape. It doesn't exist. But that's a very, very difficult conflict to resolve because in your life, day-to-day life experience, you might have interactions with stuff that doesn't exist, and it makes you think that it exists. And this is part of the hijacking of your creative nature, because we create stuff into being. So if I implant a concept in you, and even if the concept doesn't exist, then you might bring that concept forward and manifest it and then bring it into existence, which is also part of the cautionary tale. We don't want consciousness and energy to exit out of this beautiful, perfect shape. And we also don't want doo-doo to enter into this beautiful, perfect shape by using one of us as a consciousness conduit to imagine that doo-doo into existence. Marie, thank you for being here. And also, Marie, I don't know if you can see, I rearranged my table over here, but you see that box right there? That's your earrings that finally arrived from my 3D printer. So I'll be able to paint those earrings for you very soon. They literally just arrived today. So Marie, thank you for being here. Returning student and Lasagna Dancer says, some say that we visit astral realm in our dreams. Is that true? Dun, dun, dun. Yes and no, because in a pristine system, we visit the astral realm in our dreams. The dreams have different qualities. Some dreams are just exploring the detritus of the day, literally the brain taking out its own brain garbage. The brain, this is the brain, taking out its garbage. It looks at certain things, it's like, these are important things. These are important things. Keep this. And then it goes through other things like, how about this? No, throw it. Toss it. How about this? No, toss it. So when your brain, at the end of the day, because we have so many things that we're exposed to, at the end of the day, if you're healthy, your brain, you go into unconscious or sub or superconscious. And your brain goes through all of its files. And it's like temp files. Clear it out, toss it out. Phone numbers, things I don't need to remember, other people's addresses, blah, blah, blah. Get rid of it. And that's what some dreams are. Some dreams are just the process of combing through that detritus and metabolizing it out of your body. Some dreams are genuine connections to your higher, highest self and to God, the source, and everything that is pure consciousness. And they are prophetic. They are profound. When you have those dreams, they have a visceral reality to them, and you remember them years later, even if you don't have a dream journal. Like I have a couple of dreams that have been like that for me, where it had a deep impact, and I could even still remember them right now, and I could remember every detail of the dreams because they were important. So there are qualitative differences that really, really only you can tell, but you can tell when something is important versus when it's just garbage. But within the past 3 years, the pineal gland and dreaming mechanism of almost everyone on this planet has been hijacked, horribly distorted. And right now, for me, I never dream my real dreams anymore. Not for the past 3 years. It's 100% garbage that does not emanate from me. It's garbage that comes from technological implants. And I know I'm not the only person experiencing this. I compare notes with many, many other people and many, many other psychics. So super skepticism must be applied to anything that is coming in through the pineal gland right now, because the pineal gland is one way that they try to put doo-doo into this world. Put it into your pineal gland, and then you imagine it into the world, because your pineal gland is the imagination mechanism through which we project our reality. So it's a very cunning way to try to get thought forms that should never be in existence into existence. So be super skeptical of your dreams over the past 3 years, because you're not dreaming in a totally clear ocean of consciousness. You're dreaming in a highly polluted place. Like if you think about one of those archipelagos where they just dump plastics into the water from the cruise ships, and then people are going to go there, they're going to go scuba diving. They're like, I'm going to swim through beautiful clear blue water and see all of the rainbow colored fish, and instead they're swimming through like old Ziploc bags and, you know, dirty used tampons and stuff like that. That is what you're in the dream world right now. That it's not a perfect place where you can just look at stuff and learn about thought forms and swim around. It is really, really polluted. And so a lot of the stuff that you're interacting with is a construct that doesn't arise from you, but arises technologically. And then also, if you do dream and you go into the astral realm, there are thought creatures there that also have a solidity but don't arise from you. So sometimes you're exploring your own stuff. The idea of dreams is to explore your own stuff. That's like looking in the mirror. You know, you should have the privilege of being able to look in the mirror and be like, how am I looking today? Like, do I have broccoli between my teeth? Am I looking all right? And make an honest assessment, right? That's part of what dreams allow one to do, is have that perspective on your own thoughts, on your own emotional landscape, on the stuff that's inside of you. But when you go to the astral realm, at least for the past many millennia, the astral realm has been populated by a lot of stuff that are thought forms and fragments of consciousness and deities that are upheld by people's pathogenic behaviors and negative thought forms. Like regular gods are just regular gods. Like you don't have to do stuff to like think them into existence. Like if I stop thinking about this god is going to go out of existence. That is not a god. A real god is just like, I'm God. You don't have to do special stuff, prostrations, ablutions, and sacrifices to make sure that I continue to be in existence. But lower level astral deity thought forms do require that. They require either like a constant prayer, a constant mental connection, constant sacrifices and rituals, and this and that in order to be able to have energy to sustain them. Do you know why? Because they don't have an actual connection to this source that is right here. God is the source that is right there. And God is like, would you like me? You're like, would you like me to sacrifice an oxen to you? And God is like, no, I really don't need that. I don't need a dead oxen to be a dead ox, rather, to a dove, any of these things, a human. I don't need any of these things to be sustained. God is like, I am just in existence, but thank you very much for the offer, but don't just please leave that animal and be nice to it. That would be a nice thing to do. But no, I don't need your blood in order to stay alive. But some lower level deity does need that. Maybe it needs fields of barley as a sacrifice, or maybe it needs a bunch of dead soldiers in a war as a sacrifice, or maybe it needs dead doves or oxen or whatever it is. But those are the types of things that you'll find on the astral realm. So sometimes when you go into dreaming, you will interact with things that are not God, but that are self-proclaimed God, or that are subsets of God, but that's not who and what that really is. So my best information for you at this time is just don't swim around in a sewer. And that's also why I caution people against taking molecular helpers like DMT and some magic mushrooms and other stuff like that. Like, especially within the past 3 years, I don't really think that you're getting past the lower astral. It is a sewer plant there. You don't want to swim around in all of that sludge, and you're not really going to get enlightenment. That's not a place of enlightenment. So you see me working with my crystals all the time, and I have them on 5G protection. I literally sleep with a headband on, and I have my crystals over my eyes like this. The orange things are where they emit from, over my eyes like this. Because I don't want dream garbage. I don't want dumps in my mind. And I was getting, for years before I got these crystals, so much mind garbage at night. And then I would wake up in the morning and spend the first several minutes, maybe even an hour before I would get out of bed, just clearing out mind garbage. And I'd be like, that's a lie, throw that out, throw that out, throw that out. I don't know where that came from, throw that out, throw that out. Like, that's really exhausting. Wake up and have a big giant, like, imagine you wake up and there's like, someone had a party in your living room and there's all these empty beer bottles. You're like, get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. That's very, very exhausting. And also, like, my mind is not like party central open house. No, it's having boundaries. We're mastering and learning many, many lessons about boundaries here. So clearing out the astral garbage dumps. But I will tell you, in positive terms, we will return to the capacity to use our pineal glands, swim in pristine waters, connect to one another telepathically, and do all sorts of wonderful dream travel and valid sharing in the dream world. And some people, I'm also hearing you say this internally, like, wait, Aurora, what about your dream academy? That's real. That is very, very real. And so I loosely call it the Dream Academy. I have a group of people, just like in my waking days, my waking time during the day. I have a telepathic email blast, people who are consensually connected to me, that when I have important ideas that I would like to share with them and windows of opportunity not be set by this crapola system, I send out a blast. I'm like, oh, like I just figured out about this. Send it out to everyone so that everyone can benefit from it. And then in terms of my nighttime activities, I'm greatly hampered by the pollutions in the ocean that's, the dream time, because I really can reach a lot more people at night than I can even, through videos during the day or telepathic email blasts. So yeah, I have a whole way of being able to teach people and share with them directly, mind to mind, some of these complex concepts. And would, of course, be much more expansive and unfettered if we weren't having problems. But also, like, I recognize this is a spiritual war, and that in many ways, that's part of why I'm here. So I'm here to give you empowerment information to help you in this war. And then the thing that is the war is like, we really don't want you to connect with these people and help them. I'm like, I know. So I hope that spoke to your question. Let's talk. So we were on the concept of DNA and supercoiling. Why is this relevant? Because when you have a torus, this shape, you have the potential to make a flying rainbow lasagna, which is this shape. And you have many, many, many toruses or tori, donut shapes, in your DNA. And that is the potential that you can use to be able to oscillate into a higher dimension, which is the flying rainbow lasagna shape, and in so doing achieve an additional degree of freedom. And that means that you are able to change the wording in the book of your DNA. So your DNA is actually more like scrolls, like old-fashioned papyrus scrolls. And they unfurl and they close back up. So when the scrolls are open, you may read what's inside of them. But when they're all closed up, you can't read what's in there. And that is called methylation. And it has to do with supercoiling. And if you have something that's in the pages that are inaccessible, then it doesn't come into fruition. So you can have potentials for diseases or negative life experiences that are all scrolled up, but it's not going to happen in your life because it's scrolled up. Can't read it and access that and make those things happen in reality. But the same thing would be true of good stuff, good potentials, like maybe potentials for healing and regeneration and super longevity. When those are all scrolled up, then you experience what is known as the life of an ordinary human, a mortal that experiences death. So what I teach with Flying Rainbow Lasagna is a technique to be able to access aspects of your DNA that have been tightly scrolled up. That's a lot of the good stuff: psychic powers, rejuvenation, the capacity to eat pure light, and many other expansive freedoms and empowerments that have been made dormant inside of you. And the answer is also that it's not a one-size-fits-all solution, that each one of you has to figure out exactly the right pattern of how to unfurl things inside of you so that you access all of the amazing superpowers that are dormant in you. And then also the things that you want to turn down the volume on. If you're reading in the scroll, you're like, oh, that's a bunch of crap. You just want to scroll that right up. You don't want to have that stuff in there. You want to have a completely different experience, because the thing that's written in the scroll might be of your DNA might be something about someone just sent in a broccoli order. Sorry about that distraction. Might be something unpleasant about developing diseases. And actually, you know, just as a brief aside, one of the amazing things about the broccoli and the sulforaphane is that it's like a proofreader that goes through DNA and finds stuff that's not supposed to be there and changes it and escorts it out of the body. Get those fragments out of there, get that stuff out of there. There's actually a good TED talk about that. So yes, things that we don't want to be evidenced in our DNA should remain tightly scrolled up or even edited out of your book entirely, all right? So on a subcellular level, you have these multiple toruses in your DNA, and you are on a planet that is also enveloped by a toroidal magnetosphere. And as you are empowering and being able to selectively choose how your DNA is structured and how it's dancing and what is open and what is closed and what is furled and unfurled. This, you can see my painting up here. Same thing is happening on your planet. The same thing is happening, and it's concurrent. That is what the fractality of this experience is. As you are healing and reviving your superpowers, so is the planet. And as the planet is changing and transforming, really so is your whole entire solar system. So this is the moment where a boundary is created, like many other tragedies have happened in your solar system. But you get to this planet, you're like, no, actually, we're not going down like that. Something else is going to happen here. And the thing that you do in Flying Rainbow Lasagna-ing with your body contributes towards that resolution, creating of a new circumstance, a new pathway, and a non-inevitability of death. Everything that I teach about and exemplify to you here is about making death not inevitable, even though socially and religiously that is what is taught to you, and instead thinking of yourself as an inevitability particle that will, no matter what, return to infinity. Let's talk about this zeroth dimension here. This is infinity. This is actually one of the most important topics that I can share about with you. So this is called the zeroth dimension, and I'm going to draw for you how to construct the dimensions very quickly today. Wait, before I get to the zeroth dimension, let me read this from Pedro so that way I don't go forward too much. Thank you for being here, Pedro, long-term returning student with wonderful things to share for all of us. He says, guess I'm lucky I don't have to do cleanup. I can't remember most of my dreams. The fragments I can barely retain, they evaporate quickly. Probably better off that way. They're not having some kind of a naughty party in your house while you're in your subconscious, and you don't wake up to a bunch of beer bottles. You know, you have better neighbors than I do, so that's good for you. Okay, so wait, before I talk about the zeroth dimension, Let me get myself some more blessed water over here. You guys already know I don't put it next to my computer because you don't want to have a computer disaster. The zeroth dimension, called zero not because it is worth nothing, but because it is worth everything. When I first came here as Aurora, and I tell this story very consistently, so apologies for anyone who's already heard all of my stories and anecdotes, but first I was numerically illiterate, and then I started to learn a little bit about the number system here, but I also had to learn about the culture here in the United States, where if something is zero here, everyone thinks that it is worth nothing. Like if you go into a store and there's different apples, and one is worth $1 and one is worth $5 and one is worth $0, no one's going to buy the apples that are worth $0. Everyone's going to be like, those are the worst apples. They're worth zero. They're worth nothing. But the apples that are worth $5, those must be the best apples because they are worth the most. And I really had to recalibrate my mind in order to be able to share these concepts with you accurately, because where I come from and everything that I'm teaching you, zero is not worth less. It is everything. Zero is actually infinity. So this central convergence point of this sculpture here, that point right in there, it is the zeroth dimension because it contains everything, not because it contains nothing. So when we get into the words to be able to talk about and describe dimensionality, we're talking about how many pieces of information are required to accurately describe the position of a point in space and time. And the zeroth dimension and items that are in the zeroth dimension do not require any descriptors in terms of information to say, where is this thing located, because everything is there. It is literally the house that contains everything. It is infinity. Zero is not nothingness, it is everythingness, it is infinity. It is the point of overlapping potential of all that is. Singularity is different than the transhumanist concept of singularity, the melding of human plus machine mind. Doo-doo. No, that is not what I've been talking about for many years, and I've always been very, very clear because I use a word that means something else to different people. So when I talk about singularity, I am talking about a point that is the point that contains everything. But, and also, when I share with you my different artworks, let's get a piece of artwork here so you can see this, you're going to say, well, wait, it looks like there's many singularities. Wait, I have to, hold on. Stop. Oh my goodness, I'm trying to do too many things at once. You can tell by my face. Get a picture that will better describe this for us here. That's the one. Okay, now I'm going to share this picture with you instead. Okay, so you've seen this in my class many times. Every single one of these places where I'm putting a dot is singularity. Like, Aurora, very mad at you right now. Why are you mad at me? Because you just told me that there's only one singularity and it's single by nature, and that there's only one of them, and now on your drawing, you're drawing at least 5 of them. And you're putting me into a state like I'm confused and I don't like what's going on. I was like, I'm gonna hug you. Don't be sad. Because every single one of these dots that I just drew and highlighted here is singularity. But all of these are considered to be doorways that go to the same place. So if we say over here is singularity, but every single one of these is like a doorway. And when I make these dots, I'm trying to show kind of like dot, 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 dot. That doorway connects in a abstract, non-physical sense to that singularity. Doorway, 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 doorway. All of these doorways, dot, 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 all go to the same place. Infinity. So let's make this a big giant infinity sign. Every single one of these doorways goes to infinity. So you have many, many different multiple apertures, but only one infinity. And when I show you this other drawing, this is the one I started out with today, This one is very accurate because all of the chakras converge in one infinity point. So it really depends on how I, as an artist, choose to portray this truthfulness. You know, if I just made my drawings like this one that is currently on your screen, that would be accurate, but it wouldn't show all of the accuracy, because I think that you've probably experienced, like, I call it New Age artwork. There are many different New Age artworks, and also some things that come from Asia, different diagrams, acupuncture and acupressure, that show the chakras as being spread out. Like, one is on your forehead, and one is on your heart, and one is in your belly, and one is between your legs, that you might be confused because you're like, okay, there's all these different chakras, but how does this fit together? So the answer is your chakras are fractal by nature, and they represent, as I spoke about last week in class, different layers of reality, time moving at different rates, from the very, very fastest layer of your being, which is the crown and violet, and is associated with the top of your head, but actually exists at the very epicenter of every single one of your cells in all of your nuclei, to the thing that is moving the slowest, which is your physicality presence. But every single one of these layers of your being has a convergence point and a doorway to infinity. In this painting, I have shown it as converging at the center of this humanoid form, all overlapping and converging to the same point. But in this drawing over here, I have shown them deconstructed, all spread out, so that you can actually see how they interpenetrate, like kind of like gears, throughout your whole body. Both of these are accurate, but they just are different interpretation systems of the same truth. So, key point. Singularity, or the singularity, is infinity. It is the room that contains everything, and it would be like saying, I don't have to put an address if I'm going to send you a package. Just like send it to infinity. You don't have to put any address on where it's going. Everything goes to infinity. In this sculpture and in this form, as energy is flowing, everything flows to infinity. This is the crossing point where all of these figure eights come together. Every single life, every single impulse of energy, every single atom, every single molecule, every single organism, every single life trajectory. Your mind is already liquefying. Every single one of them converges and overlaps at infinity. And that zeroth dimension and infinity is actually the starting point from which everything that we experience as time and time structure emanates. So now let's talk about how to build the dimensions from the concept of consciousness. So this is what I have slightly in common with the description known as sacred geometry. Sacred geometry does look at stuff as if it has a motivation. So that's what I have in common with this. I'm going to start off with here just a simple dot. Wait, maybe it should be violet. I doubt myself. Singularity. And we'll make it kind of big so that you can see it on your screen. But that is the infinity point. Wow, you can see how hard it is to draw with this pen. Infinity. So sacred geometry ascribes motives to things that are happening with numbers and interprets them on a somewhat anthropological level, like ascribing human motivations to purely abstract symbols. This is what I have slightly in common with my description here, because if I just remove that figure eight symbol, then what you have is just this dot. And technically nothing exists except for this dot. That's the zeroth dimension. Nothing exists around it. The big giant white expanse around it, that doesn't exist. It's just infinity in a contextless void. It's a super dense, super overlapping, I keep using that word, presence. And the most amazing thing that happened in the world was when everything that is in that presence there, which is really God, had a thought one day. What if something existed that wasn't here in the center with me? What would happen? That very thought created the first dimension. So now let's get a different color and draw this out. Here. What if I've got a little pink dot that exists over here? It looks too similar to purple. Wait, let's find a just completely different color. Green dot. I hope you can see this one. There you go. That dot could be any place. That dot could be there, it could be there, it could be there, it could be there. It doesn't matter where it is. All that matters is that it's not here. That was a revolutionary thought. That is literally pardon me, you can tell my voice is tired. Let me just drink a little bit of water before I go forward. If you ever need to fall asleep at night and you don't do something like counting sheep or whatever, one of the things you can do is just meditate and ruminate upon the profundity of the zeroth dimension and of the singularity, and the idea that there is this place where everything is, and that everything actually continues to be there. Wait, someone just woke up from their nap. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. All right, returning students and new students. You guys all know Cheeky. Oh, and Cheeky wants to play with a toy. Cheeky just got this as a present today. She's very excited. So we just need to give Cheeky a little bit of hugs over here, a little bit of reassurance. Sorry to interrupt what we got going on in class, but Cheeky's a master teacher, and she's here to teach us about important stuff too, like sometimes playing with toys. Okay, thank you very much, guys. Thank you for that lightheartedness. And also, I have bribes. I knew that this might happen, so we might have to go get her a few bribes. This is gonna happen. Get your bribes. Hold on a second, guys. Brief pause. Brief pause. If you ever have trouble sleeping, or just ruminate, or want to lay on your back and stare up at the blue sky and the clouds and just consider about life, the idea that there is this convergence point where everything exists, and that technically you still exist there at the same time as you exist here in embodiment, that will liquefy your brains. That will definitely be a profound thing to think about all the time. But then one of the other most profound things you can think about is, what does it take for the level of intelligence that is everythingness to at some point think, what if there was a part of me that wasn't here with me? That this is actually a very divine and exalted, positive thought structure, not an affront or a rejection. Like, this would be how it is often portrayed and mischaracterized. Like, God is in heaven and everything else is like, F you, God, I'm getting out of here. Like teenagers leaving the house. Like, I don't like you. I'm dyeing my hair purple and I'm getting out of the house. See you later. Slam the door. I'm out of here. That is not what happened at all. This is not a rejection of God or a rejection of heaven or a rejection of a heavenly paradise or a rejection of infinity or any kind of thing like that. And it was not because you got banished from heaven or the angel said, get out of Eden or any of those things. No, it was not like that at all. This is a self-exploratory process. You are God. You are the source, and you are that convergence point of the overlappingness of everything. And you are that genius that at one moment thought this incredible thought. What if there was a piece of me that wasn't here with me, but was somehow somewhere else? That is a genius creative thought, because that makes it possible to create the first dimension. First dimension, because it requires one piece of information to be able to describe the position of a point on this line. I'm drawing this line as if it is a bunch of dots, but imagine the dots are really, really close together, and then that makes a line. So that is the first dimension. So if you've ever done math in 3rd grade, then you learned about a numbers line. And the numbers line says you have, like, maybe here's a 1, and here's a 2, and here's a 3, all the way up to infinity. A numbers line. It is the first leap into a higher dimensional state from the 0th dimension. Once you master that leap, you can do it over and over again. Every single concurrent dimension that is created in this unfolding and expansion process of building dimensionality happens at a perpendicular direction to the original vector or impulse. So the original 0th dimension, any direction away from that place would be considered perpendicular. But once you have the first dimension, in order to create the second dimension, what you must do is go perpendicular to that line. So you guys also probably learned this in 3rd grade. Perpendicular, that's going in this direction. Here is the 90-degree angle symbol for a 90-degree angle, perpendicular, and then you're going in this direction, and that creates the second dimension. And the second dimension requires 2 pieces of information to determine the position of a point on the plane, both an x and a y coordinate. So 0 dimension, 0 information over here. First dimension, 1 piece of information to get the letter to the address. Second dimension, 2 pieces of information to get to the letter to that address. And then what you end up having is kind of like a plane. Imagine that this is like a playing card or a piece of paper. And then what is 90 degrees to that? This is something that you probably have all mastered because you live in a 3rd dimensional world. So that would be like hopping off of the surface of that piece of paper, and that gives you the 3rd dimension. And the 3rd dimension turns this into a cube. So many apologies. Thank you. Just give me a moment here. I'm trying to put my crystal right there and work on my throat. This is a very hastily drawn cube, and that cube represents the 3rd dimension. You guys are all pretty familiar with cubes. You're probably sitting in a cube right now. It's called a room, or a house, or an apartment. It's pretty much the shape of our dwellings. And all of these dimensions that I have just described to you represent spatial dimensions. So what we're talking about right now is the creation and the structuring of time and space. From the 0th dimension, 1, 2, and 3, I have described to you spatial dimensions that have to do with distance and positioning. All of the dimensions that come upward from the 3rd dimension, like 4 plus all the way upward, have to do with time. And these 2 aspects of being, space and time, have an interrelationship, just like electricity and magnetism have an interrelationship. Because in order to create time, you have to have an amount of space. How long does it take for you to travel from point A to point B? That is time. The experience of not being all overlapping in the same place. So in the 0th dimension, you do not experience time because everything is there and everything is overlapping. It takes 0 amount of time for me to walk next door because next door is right here. Do you get it? But when we create the spatial dimensions, then there is the sense of how long does it take for me to walk along that numbers line? How long does it take for me to stack up pieces of paper or playing cards into a cube? And then how long does it take for me to go from, let's say, one edge of the paper to the other edge of the paper, or one side of the cube to the other side of the cube, all right? Then time becomes an aspect of our reality. And now we get into the huge empowerment teaching of really being able to envision time. Because you guys can envision a line. I can draw it for you. You can envision a piece of paper. We got pieces of paper all over. You can envision a cube. You live in a cube. Very difficult to envision time. And this shape is you, and this shape is time. So instead of just thinking about time as like this weird thing, I can't get a grasp on it, and somehow it affects your life, let's give you a effective tool to be able to consider what time is shaped like. So now I'll choose a different color, and I'll say the 4th dimension is what happens when we go 90 degrees to the 3rd dimension. You're like, Aurora, I don't know where's the arrow going to go? And the answer is the arrow goes in this direction. And what I'm going to do is just draw a bunch of squares, but they're supposed to be cubes. Just in your mind, know that these are cubes and that they're supposed to be squares. I'm just having a lot of trouble here. All right? And dot, dot, dot means that they keep going all the way off the edge of your screen. But every single one of these represents another box. And this is the fourth dimension because it requires 4 pieces of information to describe the position of a point in time and now space and now time. So let's make a big black dot over here and let's say, okay, it's in the cube. And we know the x, y, and z coordinates are where that black dot is within that cube. But that black dot doesn't just stay frozen in one moment. It is there in that moment of time, and then it's over here in this moment of time. Then it's over here in this moment of time, and then it's down here in this moment of time. The black cube, not black cube, try again. Black dot requires 4 pieces of information to describe where it is. The spatial coordinates of where it is within these various different cubes, and then also the time coordinates. Like over here, this is 1201, and you've got 1202 and 1203 and 1204. Now it's funny that I misspoke and I said the black cube because that is esoteric concept that very much involves time, but that I won't bring into this particular lesson, but just had to say, like, that's why my mind made that connection. So stay focused. The fourth dimension is a timeline. So right now it's 4:01. We started class at about 2:01. We've been together for 2 hours, and we have moved through time. You didn't have to sit there and say to each other, like, runners, take your marks. On your mark, get ready, get set, go. Now move through time. We take it as a matter of course. Our consciousness is going to be propelled through time from moment to moment. That is an aspect of being alive, and that is also an aspect of having a healthy, functional chakra system, a non-physical energy field around your body. Do you know what corpses do not do? They do not contain consciousness that is moving through time. A corpse is an inert, consciousness-less, empty shell. So what you're doing with your consciousness in each moment as you are alive and you move through time is to bounce your consciousness from moment to moment. You have all these various different bodies. You have your body of 201 and your body of 229 and your body of 347 and your body of 403. And you just hopped into your body of 403. And you're like, Aurora, where's my body of 227? And the answer is, it is contained within your body of 403. The cellular structure that you inhabited and the esoteric structure that you inhabited at 229 is in here. And that now that you're in the body of 403, through the process of autophagy or self-eating, you will begin to dismantle the cellular structure that you have inside of you that was relevant in 229. And when you get to 537, you will be dismantling this body that you're currently occupying, that is the one that is most relevant for 403. You're constantly evolving into your new form and constantly dismantling and taking away the unneeded residues of your previous form. And that is just to move down one timeline, which is considered one time road. So in building the dimensions, we do something that is called the point, line, plane paradigm, which is a pattern that repeats over and over, beginning with the 0th dimension, which is a point. Pardon me. The 0th dimension, if you remember, is this point right over here. And then we evolved into a line, which is the 1st dimension, then created a plane, which is the 2nd dimension, and then created a cube. Well, you're like, Aurora, a cube is not a point, but we will say it acts like a point. So now that cube is one single point, and then from there we go into a line, 4th dimension, timeline. And then what's the next thing that happens? Point, line, plane. Good job, everyone, plane. So what would be a plane? Would be moving out in this direction, over here. many, many, many timelines lined up next to each other, except this is where the analogy breaks down and I must rant. Because everybody's talking about 3D, 5D, 12D. I was very confused for many years, and now I'm moderately inflamed. I'm moderately inflamed at the inaccuracies of this language. But truly, when people are talking about 3D, 5D, it's very loose language, and they're not really talking about dimensions. So throw it out the window for this class. For this class, when we talk about dimensions, we're talking about dimensions. We're talking about mathematical concepts, not different feeling states that you might feel. Because when people say like you're so 3D, they're saying like you're so secular and mundane. And when people are like I'm moving into 5D, they're like I'm feeling elevated and expansive, but I still have a physical body. But I got confused because I'm like, oh, wait a minute, guys. 5D doesn't mean you still have a physical body. 5D means you're in a field of uncollapsed waveforms that isn't even a timeline yet. All right, that's why. Just please release any of the previous languaging that you've heard about 3D and 5D and what exactly it is. We're talking in this class about dimensions. So a fourth dimensional timeline is a line of events from beginning to end. The birth of your experience over here, middle age, and then death all the way over here. But it's like a line of French bread, with different slices that you make, and then you can make the slices into bruschetta. But the fifth dimension is not even many, many, many French breads lined up on the shelf. That's what you want to think. You want to think, oh, the fifth dimension is like I've got all these different timelines all lined up, and then I can dimension hop between all these different timelines. That is not what it is. It is actually the bakery where bread is baked. The fifth dimension represents not the retail space of a bakery, but the back of the bakery, where you have big, giant mixing bowls, big, giant bags of flour, water, yeast, and other flavorings and things like that, and the potentials for making the dough that will eventually become a reality structure that you can inhabit. This is why I became so inflamed and agitated when I heard people talking about, like, I'm in 5D and I'm doing this and that. And I'm like, if you're in 5D, you're a waveform. Like, you can't do this and that. You're a potential. So the fifth dimension is a place of pure potential. You actually already occupy that place. You're not moving into that place, you're already in that place. All of these dimensions are places that you already inhabit as existence. You don't have to go there, you don't have to get there, and you don't have to effort in any way. But what you do have to become is consciously aware of your appendages that are active in those other dimensions or layers of reality. So you right now have an appendage or an aspect of yourself that is active in the fifth dimension, the place where the bread of life is actually baked, and you're already influencing reality, but just not in a conscious way. So imagine a child, like you've got your eyes closed and you're holding a scribble, like a crayon, and just scribbling all over the place, blah, blah, blah. And that's like, the kid scribbling on the couch. Like, you're not really making supremely advanced, well-measured, accurate time structures. That's the thing that you are here to rectify. So you have this imaginative creative potential to take waveforms that aren't even yet edifices and turn them into realities, but you haven't yet mastered that. When you master that, you move into greater levels of comfort and empowerment. So even the whole idea of fate and determinism, this also speaks to genetic determinism. Genetic determinism says that if something is written in your DNA, it's going to happen. If you got that disease, you're going to get that disease because it's written in your DNA. But I just taught you all about methylation. You might have the potential written in your DNA, but you're going to scroll that on up so that you never access that potential. This is the difference between genetic determinism or fatalism, where people think, oh, if it's in your DNA, it's going to happen to you. But researching the lives of identical twins has shown that you don't necessarily evidence or manifest and experience the potentials within your DNA. So there's something else going on there, because you can have the potential for a disease, but not actually get the disease. So what makes some people get it and some people not get it? And then the answer is you have to look to a different level of cognitive effects and consciousness effects on reality, because it has to do with what you're thinking, what you're believing, and what you're feeling. So your thoughts and your beliefs and your feelings are really emanating from and affecting the fifth dimension and above. The fifth dimension is a time dimension. It is a place of pure potentiality. Your emotional state in your flesh body has a connection to the potentials of the fifth dimension and the things that are born there and the reality structures that are created there, which you then experience with your physicality presence. So it is not a place that you drive to in a car, and there are not buildings there for you to sit inside of. It is a place that you are already connected to and you're already influencing. The goal is to learn to influence it consciously and to create events and structures that are in alignment with divine will and that bring you towards longevity and coherence. Because you might be like, woohoo, like the fifth dimension, that's like the astral realm. I'm like, no, it's not like the astral realm, because you can't just put together combinations of anything and expect it to be music. And you really need to have music. If you want to have life, you have to have music, and that means you have to have notes that actually fit together and sound good. So you can't just mishmash anything together. This is very, very close to when you actually make bread. You know, making bread is an art form. You can't just throw together a bunch of stuff and think that it's going to taste good and actually make bread. If you don't measure your ingredients and do things the right way, you end up with like something that tastes really bad. It's usually like kind of like flat, you know, whatever, crackers, matzah type stuff. Even flatbread can be good, but I'm talking about stuff that is like inedible. You have to have the proper proportions, the proper recipe, and put things, the ingredients together in the right way in order to create event structures that are life-giving, that taste good. And that if you just slap a bunch of parameters together, it actually doesn't support life. So the whole journey of what you're on right here is exploring yourself as God. You're the zeroth dimension. One day you had the mind-blowing experience and thought to think like, what if there was a piece of me that wasn't actually here with me, but instead was somewhere else? And then you started this whole cascade of events to create the first dimension and the second dimension and the third dimension and the fourth dimension and the fifth dimension. You need to learn how to control things so that you're making good stuff happen, because the fifth dimension isn't the end of the journey either. It goes upward in complexity. So you want to be taking those potentials of the fifth dimension and baking good bread in the bakery, but then also point, line, plane. So we just created the box of the third dimension is like a point. Fourth dimension timeline is like a line. Fifth dimension here in black is like a plane. This is supposed to be a 5. And then what we need to do is go back to a cube, back to a point. So let's change colors here. So the sixth dimension would be what would happen if we stack up many, many, many fifth dimensional time planes and created another cube. And that would be the sixth dimension. Again, a pure waveform presence. And then if you put many, many, many green cubes in a line, you end up with the seventh dimension. Get a different color. That would be a timeline made out of time cubes that's made up out of time planes. That's the eighth dimension. And then if you have many, many, many eighth dimensional timelines that are made up of time cubes put together into a plane, then you end up getting the ninth dimension, which is a time plane that is made up of timelines that are comprised of time cubes, that are comprised of time planes, that are comprised of timelines. And then if you put together the ninth dimension into a cube, stacking up many, many, many of these higher dimensional time planes, then what you end up getting is 10th dimension. And the 10th dimension, let's get a different color here. 10th dimension is a cube or a point that is made up of multiple ninth dimensional time planes that are made up of multiple eighth dimensional timelines that are made up of multiple sixth dimensional time cubes that are comprised of multiple fifth dimensional time planes, all of which are made out of multiple fourth dimensional timelines. And I hope that, so we just went up to 10. You can go up really up to infinity. Some people say it goes up to 12, goes up to 10. I think really just keeps going up the ladder of complexity. But all of that in order to be able to get across the concept to you that this is like building a house where you have the foundation and then every layer builds upon the previous layer. So the first layer of time, the fourth dimension, is like the foundation, and then you have the 5th dimension and the 6th dimension all the way up to the 10th dimension as these multiple layers on top of that primacy. And this also, when I minorly rant against escapism, people who talk about 3D versus 5D in terms of reality, quality of existences, they're like, I want to get out of 3D. I want to throw my 3D life and planet and body out the window, and I want to go into 5D, or I want to go into 12D. And from my comprehension, that would be like saying, I don't like the basement of my house or the foundation of my house. I want to get rid of the foundation of my house. But then I just want to keep the 3rd floor. And no, that's never going to work. You know you're not even an engineer, and you know that that's never going to work, because what happened? Everything is based on the foundation. Everything is based on the basement. And then everything is structured on top of that. So look, this really is a deep thing, because people are like, they don't like their cellular bodies. People don't like their cellular somatic existence and the social dynamics of what it takes to support a body here in this world. And they're in that dissatisfaction. They're like, throw it away, get rid of it. Calgon, take me away. And Calgon is not an extraterrestrial. That's what people thought one semester. They thought I was talking about some kind of a space race named Calgon. It's a brand of bubble bath from a long time ago. And this lady in the commercial was overwhelmed by her life, and she would say, Calgon, take me away. And it does not get into a spaceship. She gets into her bathtub, and that is her escapism. But I joke about this stuff and escapism of people who don't like their lives of having a body, eating food, making doo-doos in the toilet, having to go to the grocery store, paying their Geico bill. That's 3rd dimensional stuff. And I recognize that you're in like a very effed up world, and it might not be that comfortable, but you can't just throw that stuff away and be like, hooray, I'm free. Now I'm just going to fly around and have an exalted experience of freedom. Like, you can't do that, because that would be like saying, I'm just going to get rid of the foundation of reality. I'm just going to have the upper floors of my house with it not resting upon anything. So please recognize and celebrate the necessity and the joy of having a physical body. And in this moment, we eat physical food. Procuring physical food, preparing it, cleaning up after it, your body processes, and also all of the social dynamics that are involved in 3rd dimensional reality structures, like having a house, having a garden, buying dog food, feeding it to your dog, all of those things. And I mean, I recognize that I am still somewhat of a newcomer, like I've been here for slightly over 20 years. So I do find that there's still a lot of freshness and novelty for me to do these things, but also I'm not an idiot. And I really do see that there is a profundity to what I do in the care and feeding of the physical form as a basis and a necessity for all the spiritual attainments, for all of the non-physical or purely ephemeral, energetic experiences that we are able to have. And what I deride in the New Age thought structure is the sense of imbalance. People who no longer wish to have a physical body or do any of the things to take care of their physical body, because I recognize it's a lot, like you can't brush the hair, and you also have to brush the teeth, and there are different soaps for different body parts, and that's just, hygiene, and then there's other stuff too. But to be able to embrace that as an aspect of the elegance of higher dimensional experience too, that when you're brushing your teeth and what you are doing with your basic physicality structure is absolutely essential to the freedom that you experience in the higher dimensions of non-physicality. I'm trying to find an analogy and I can't find an analogy, but the whole entire thing is a miracle of existence, where you can't really amputate or excise one part of it out from the entirety. So you might say like, oh, I like the free part over here, but I don't like the buying toothpaste part over here. It's so boring. But the buying toothpaste part is really important, and brushing your teeth is really important. And it allows you to get to levels of ephemeral, esoteric, purely energetic freedom. So I joke about the Essenes and the Gnostics that thought that materiality, materialism, and being in the physical body was inherently evil. They really looked at the world that way. It was a very particular sect in the Middle East a long time ago, but I've done some scholarly research about it. It's just fascinating because they looked at it like a trap. They're like, oh, I'm not free. I'm stuck here buying toothpaste. But they didn't have toothpaste, but you know what I mean. Their version of that. And I'm like, hooray, I'm here, I get to buy toothpaste. Because you know what I know? I'm actually manifesting that toothpaste from a dough that I mixed in the fifth dimension. Literally, I want you to think about that. Like when you go to buy some toothpaste, you look on the shelf and there's all these different flavors and all these different boxes. They are there because you mind created them and emotion created them. You birthed them and their potentials in a higher dimensional form. And you didn't just birth the toothpastes and the potentials for toothpaste. You birthed the entire store, everyone that works there, and all of the circumstances surrounding the commerce of you buying that particular product. When I look at the world in that way, then I'm like, oh, these aren't just like silly chores. Like I can't wait to get home. I can't wait to stop buying toothpaste and get home and really meditate and really dive into my spiritual practice. I'm like, no, like buying the toothpaste is the spiritual practice. And then there's also a great deal of self-responsibility. When you look on the shelf and you're like, that's exactly the toothpaste that I wanted, because I'm this way too. I'm like, look, it doesn't have glycerin, it's got xylitol, it doesn't have saccharin, it doesn't have this, it doesn't have this fluoride. It's exactly the color and flavor that I wanted because I contributed to its existence in the fifth dimension. Let's say you look at something on the shelf or in your life that you don't like. You're like, I don't like any of these flavors. No, everything is bad, rocking back and forth. Everything is bad. I don't like anything. None of this is right. It is also related to your activity or inactivity in the fifth dimension and higher. None of this is blamefulness. All of this has to do with you achieving your own empowerment. So the first thing is just to recognize that there is a connection between your own consciousness activities in the higher dimensional realms where you have appendages, like imagine arms and legs that are doing things in that realm, and how those appendages have an impact on your physicality structure, the mundane world, the world of commerce and food and toothpaste. And when you make that connection, then you start to find the empowerment where you're like, well, wait, there's a connection. Like if I think and feel this, then this toothpaste will be on the shelf over here. And if I think and feel this, then there won't be any toothpaste, or there will be only crappy toothpaste that I don't like. So it's not to blame or shame you, but to move you into levels of the expectation of empowerment where you're like, oh, I'm the zeroth dimension, and I split myself off into all these different dimensional experiences so that I could self-experience, so that I could learn about the fifth dimension, so that I could learn about creating the ideal toothpaste flavor so that when I go to buy it, it's on the shelf and it's right there for me. And when you're in that modality of perception, the world becomes a fun and challenging like puzzle to solve, where you're like, oh, I'm going to need toothpaste. I'm going to have to do some higher dimensional work in order to manifest it and make it available to me in the physicality realm. And of course, I've used a very, very simplistic example, but we're really talking about transforming your whole entire world. This painting and this painting over here, birth of a new dimension, completely transforming Earth from the objective materialist limitations into what would be considered a magical, supernatural fantasy land. But the fantasies are not arbitrary, like my face is made of cupcakes and my shoulders have palm trees growing out of them. They are grounded in necessity and righteousness and the divine willpower. And the divine willpower is really you. It's not like being like, oh, the divine willpower wants this and that. Like, I want this, but the divine willpower wants this and that, so I'm going to allow, divine willpower gets to have its way. Because there's that whole story in the Bible about like this guy that didn't want to die, but he was like, but if the divine willpower wants me to die, then I'm going to die. And that guy's name was Jesus, and they built a whole religion out of it, and they tried to tell you that you have to be the same way too. And I'm not pooping on the beautiful teachings that guide people's lives. I'm really saying that there was an unhealthy teaching in saying that you have a separated will from who you are from what is God's will. They're actually the same thing, but you're not your ego. You're not the unpristine nature. You don't have a sinful nature. You are actually God. You're exploring God's self. And so really, the type of toothpaste you want for yourself is really the type of toothpaste that God wants for you, because really they are the same willpower and the same desire being expressed through different vectors and through different conduits. And when you look at it in that way, if you are non-self-destructive, which is what I presume you, my wonderful listeners, are, then you're like, yeah, I want my body to be happy and healthy. I want everyone that I know, my dogs and cats and plants and animals all around me, to be happy and healthy. I want to have a positive social dynamic. I want to be in freedom. I want to be free of power abuse, and I do not want to abuse power over others. And all of these other things, I can write a whole big long list, but that really is the description of paradise. So I presume that you beautiful non-self-destructive people that are in my class and connected to my work desire to inhabit paradise, be in a paradise state, and take the activities, do the responsibility activities that are needed in order to manifest and bring about that paradise level of experience. Oh, I need more water. Hold on, sorry. Because that is what it is. When your willpower is synonymous with divine willpower, there is no conflict. Sorry, I'll say it on the screen. When your willpower is synonymous with divine willpower, there is no conflict and there's no friction. So that's why I brought up that example from the Bible. It definitely was an example of a decision that did not lead to coherence and longevity. It led to death. But when you are totally in alignment, your willpower and divine willpower are the same thing. And it's like having your dream job. Like for me, my dream job would be just like paint all day. Someone paid me $1 million to paint all day, I'd be like, this is my dream job. Like someone else do the dishes, I'm busy painting. It's my dream job. I would have no conflict. I would have no inner conflict whatsoever. But if someone told me, well, you know, your job is actually to go out and repave driveways and work with this black smelly stuff and get really dirty every day. And I would be like, I'm in huge conflict with that. That's not my dream job. I don't want to do that. And I really would rather use my skills and my muscle power to paint a painting. And what if they said, well, you know, that's someone else's willpower for you. That's God's willpower for you. Just get out there and pave a driveway. Then I would be like, okay, fine, I pave a driveway. But it's not that same level of exalted excitement where it's like, hooray, I get to do exactly what I want. And the doing exactly what you want is not some stupid ego thing. Because there is this total misprojection in this world to say to people like, you're fat, lazy potato chip eaters and you don't want to do anything. You just want to sit on the couch and someone needs to kick your ass and tell you, get out there and pave a driveway. And that's not truthful at all. When you look at young people, I've done a lot of work with babysitting, being a nanny, teaching young people. They've got tons of ideas, tons of energy. They want to do stuff. It's really the educational system and the system of acculturalization that brings people from that level of being engaged and excited about life and wanting to participate to being zombified substance abusers who benumb themselves with television and check out on reality and don't want to do anything. So yeah, no, you don't need to have your ass kicked so that way you will go out and get a job, I'm chomping my cigar, and do something that contributes to society. What you need to do is stop crushing people's spirits at a young age, encourage them and cultivate their inner their fire and their spirit to actually get stuff done, and then make that their jobs, which is of course paradise. I'm describing paradise when the things that you're made for and that you want to do are what you actually get paid for. Hooray! Like what you're made for is what you get paid for. That should be some kind of a little something. Allison says, reminds me of Abraham Hicks' notion of the vortex where your imaginations create reality. Fifth dimension, I mean. Thank you for bringing that up, Allison. So that's actually a really good doorway because there are many different philosophies of manifestation. And it's interesting because I get different targeted advertising after I speak about different things in my videos. So I get different advertisings from Abraham Hicks and the Silva method and a couple of others. And I'm not here to denigrate them either because those are like coloring books. It's not like being a real artist, but it's the beginning of artistic expression. That's mostly for people that are at much earlier levels of their development than the people that have already found their way to my class. But it's a valuable stage to go through sometimes. My caveat with Abraham Hicks and getting into the vortex, like the imagination state from which you can manifest, is that people that haven't done this inner work of building great values often manifest out of selfishness. That what they want either like find the man or woman of their dreams, or go on a lavish vacation, or maybe get an expensive car or something else. And these are usually either materialistic desire fulfillments or the sense of like finding a romantic partner or something like that. It's an emptiness inside that people are looking to fulfill with stuff and things. And that real empowerment is generally not fulfillment through stuff and things, but is fulfillment through alignment with your life's purpose. So what happens with many people's wish-making trajectory is they go into manifestation school, they learn about how to win contests or use their psychic powers to make stuff happen, and they get the diamond ring or they get the fur coat, but then they look at themselves and they're like, why am I not happy? I got the diamond ring, I got the fur coat, I should be happy. And they're not happy. And it's because they realize diamond rings and fur coats don't make you happy, but what makes you happy is full alignment with your purpose of what you're supposed to be here. And Allison says she encourages that, aligning with stuff, manifesting money, a mate, etc. Yeah. So again, I'm not judging people for coloring in a simple coloring book, because it's what you do at the beginning stages of your awakening. When you're like, wow, like I'm powerful and I can get stuff done. But when the material stuff doesn't fulfill you and feed you on a soul level, then you have to look deeper and say, okay, why does the diamond ring not make me feel happy? Because I look at it, but still I'm feeling lonely or disconnected, or there's got to be something more. And then hopefully people that are in those different manifestation schools get propelled to something higher. So I have a lot of people actually that have found my work and they're like, oh yeah, I did Abraham Hicks for a little while. Again, I'm not judging anyone. The idea is that you continue to evolve on your journey so that you don't get stuck in materialism, and you really recognize that what makes people really happy and fulfilled is when every minute of your day is purposeful, meaningful, self-directed, like you're acting in freedom, and you're contributing to the world and to your community. So initially the wishes that people make out of those schools and manifestation might be about me. Like I want something that's fur coats or diamonds for me. But then at a certain point you're like, you know what I want? I want this village of people in Malawi, which is in Africa, to have a new well for clean water. That is actually going to make me feel happy. And then what you do is you start to put your manifestation energies towards transforming the world, making the entire world a better place, making entire communities happier and more positive. It's an expansion really of identity, because you recognize that it can't just be about me and making me happy. It has to be about something that makes larger groups happy. Come here. Cheeky just needs a little hug. Because that makes me happier on a different, deeper level. Because you know something, it's very truthful. Like if you are able to manifest and make yourself rich, but you live in a community where everyone else is, dying of starvation, you're like, oh great, like I've got fancy food to eat, but this guy over here who's my neighbor, he is dying, literally. That makes me not happy. What makes me happy is when everybody gets to have enough food to eat, not just one person. You begin to literally dilate your identity to include everything that you're touching on, and that is the beginning of return to your remembrance as God self, because you're like, sorry, Cheeky's barking, we'll take her out in half an hour. You're like, I'm not just me, I'm actually everything. I'm everything. I'm this whole community. I'm this painting. I'm this whole planet. I don't just want what's good for me. So humans can't just be doing what's good for humans, but poisoning the ocean for the dolphins. Because then that doesn't make me feel happy. Like, hooray, I have oil for my car, but the dolphins are dead. Like, no, that doesn't make me happy. We need to find a way for me to drive my car and still not have dead dolphins or whatever it is. And Marie says, I manifested a new job where I am cooking at this fun place. Good for you. That is beautiful. So that's actually a beautiful sharing and a great example of manifestation. So when you manifest from the fifth dimension and higher, this place of pure energetic potential, and it's aligning with your life's purpose, and you're serving your community and helping others, everybody benefits, everybody gets higher, everybody goes in the right direction. And that is really what the construction of paradise on earth is about, when everybody is able to move in more exalted directions. So again, it doesn't mean like that you sit around in white robes all the time doing nothing. It means that you do stuff and you have life's purpose. There's even a very silly show that I like called The Good Place. I've recommended it to people because I think it's also got some deep philosophy. But in one point in the show, they get to an actual heavenly paradise, but everyone there is totally like zombified out. I call them vanilla milkshakes because they're just like, la, 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 we're so happy. Like they don't have a structure, a meaning, a purpose, or anything to do with their time other than just be vanilla milkshakes. And that's not really paradise. And that's what the upshoot of the show is. They're like, wait, this is not really so good. We got to change this and fix this. So yeah, it's really essential to have meaning and purpose in your life, and not just sensory hedonism, feeling good or feeling sensory pleasure. It's really essential to have more than that, and to help one another and to expand the identity away from just me, but into something that is greater than that. So, okay, I want to make sure that I get to the really important meat and potatoes here, because I talked about the singularity and its different qualities and the zeroth dimension, but I haven't yet related that and the importance of that place right there to this sculpture right here. So how about I do that, and then I'll have to bring this lecture to completion, even recognizing that lesson 2 is jam-packed and there's a lot of stuff in there. So access the whiteboards. And also, let's say this, if you're not a fully enrolled student, you'd still like to have access to those whiteboards, like just contact me. I'll send them to you. I'm that committed. Like, I just want people to know about this so that you can be empowered. Adam says, I'm hopping off, looking forward to the microgreens. Thank you, you're so welcome. Thank you for supporting my broccoli business. Okay, this flying rainbow lasagna shape is the higher dimensional version of this torus shape. So everybody has this toroidal shape. You, your planet, your microbes, the sun. And what happens when you put this shape in a higher dimensional space is you get this shape here. I am the first person to do this, but I'm not the only person who is ever going to do this. So everything that I teach you here is foundation knowledge for how to do the flying rainbow lasagna, which I joke is how to dance the nutcracker in ballet. But this is how to transform on a genetic level. And one of the most incredible things that you need to do is have a real deep conception of the singularity and how you have singularity point inside of you, but you also have singularity in all of these other seemingly far distant locations. For example, the sun. So this shape is created when we have singularity here and singularity here. And you're like, wait, Aurora, it's just like with those doorways. I'm getting very upset and inflamed and unexcited about this. Don't, just calm down, you're okay. Because I'm not here to create cognitive dissonance in you. This shape is the end of an oscillation, where the singularity bounces between two divergent positions. And in one position, it is the position of everythingness and being and totality and total speed and total hotness and total havingness and everything. And another oscillation position where it is nothingness and it is entropy and it is non-being. And that this is a very critical aspect of your infrastructure, like having a pencil with an eraser. You have the part that you use to make marks and do stuff in reality and write stuff down. And then you have the part that is for erasing, taking away stuff. And when you're an artist or a writer, that's a big part of the artistic expression. When this is me as an artist, wait, and I squint a lot too, because that's part of being an artist. You don't quite know what it's gonna look like. You squint, you draw, and you look at your painting, you squint, you're like, that's not right, and you erase this part out, and then you try it again. And then you squint at it again, you're like, no, it's still not right. And you keep on doing that, erase and try, erase and try. That is the exploratory process of being an artist. And it's similar to being a writer, but I'm telling you, just like my language skills are not that good. But when you write something, a poem or a term paper or whatever, then you go back and you edit it. Like, erase this part out, that is not right, and that is not what I'm trying to say. And then you replace it with the improved new words that you're coming up with. So the flying rainbow lasagna is the pencil with an eraser for your DNA. I talked about methylation, which is where you're going to hide away some things that you don't like. Diseases, put those in the hide away scrolls. We don't want those to be open. But it's still in there. And flying rainbow lasagna is really a way of being able to edit out and erase the stuff that you don't want to be there. Not just going to sweep it under the cosmic carpet. And also to energize the things that you do want to be there. And if you don't have a thing that is on, if you're like, none of these things on the menu are what I really want, to create and write the recipe of what you really want in your own life, in terms of your physical structure of your body, the events of your life, and your total planetary dynamics, your social dynamics. What do you do with your time? How do you earn your money? Are you able to eat pure sunlight? Do you have to go to the store and buy apples and avocados? Do you have to drive a car? Are you able to levitate and teleport going places? All of these are the types of reality structures that I'm talking about, that if you're like, I don't just want to jump timelines into a slightly improved reality. I don't really like that timeline. I want to get out of here, and I don't really want to get out of there. It's like when you have a job, you're like, I don't like my current job, but in the help wanted ads, like, I don't really like that job either, but it's, you know, slightly better and different. But you're like, you know what I want to do? I want to create a whole new job. So that's it. And that's what you do with Flying Rainbow Lasagna. What you are able to do, you're okay, Chicky, we'll take you out soon. What you are able to do is create a whole new reality structure, write a new narrative. That is for the situation that you're in right now as a planet. You know, I've lightly contextualized what you're going through as amidst the perils of these different doo-doos and bad things that have happened in your solar system for a long time ago. You might have to really innovate. You might find that the possibilities that exist for your future all seem bleak. And if you don't like any of the, let's call them songs that are in the karaoke, like you go to karaoke and it's like, these are the options. You know, you can sing this, this, or this. You're like, I don't like any of those songs. Well, you know what you can also do at karaoke? You can just co-opt that microphone and sing some stuff a cappella that you make up without their canned backing tracks, and you can just commandeer that equipment and just sing some stuff and innovate. That's what Flying Rainbow Lasagna is. That is when you're like, I don't like any of these patterns. I don't like any of these futures. I don't like any of these jobs. I'm going to make my own job. I'm going to write something completely new. So I did that in this body, in coming here as Aurora, because the other options were the person who was in this body could die. Their soul could be erased. This is a dark story, and I haven't told it this semester, but there were huge cosmic injustices that were happening, that none of them were good solutions. None of them were good options. And all of them involved the profound destabilization of the fabric of space, time, and causality. When I did Flying Rainbow Lasagna, I'm like, I don't like any of those options. It is my cosmic choice, my free will choice, to create a new pathway that can generate something new, that can innovate and create a completely new pattern and new reality structure. And I did that for this body. This body did not die. The previous occupant, their soul was destroyed, which again should never happen, but that is what happened. And I came in a very unusual circumstance to take up the mantle of this life and to keep things going. That was not an option that was offered to me. I wrote that option. I made that happen. And in making that happen, I rewove the fabric of reality so that it maintained its integrity, so that things didn't fall apart. So the key aspects, and I'll speak throughout the entire semester of how to do the lasagna, but this is just lesson 2 of our second week. In creating Flying Rainbow Lasagna potentials, they are non-arbitrary, and they are to rectify, to heal, to restructure in a positive way aspects of time and narratives that would have been very undesirable, because you are coming out of a non-pristine system. You're coming out of an unfair, unjust system with piles of doo-doo, and that those piles of doo-doo are not supposed to be there, and technically they don't even exist. But when they really start adding up, they destabilize all of reality, and then you can't just be like, well, technically these things don't exist, and then blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's really knocking everything out of control. So in order to fix and heal reality and your own personal life, sometimes what you have to do is create an entirely new pathway. This is what you're doing alongside of your planet. your planet and all of the organisms here. You know something? You don't have to go into destruction. You don't have to have your planet destroyed the way Mars was destroyed, or the asteroid belt, or any of these other places that got destabilized, and galaxies that got eaten by non-beings or something like that. I'm being a bit hyperbolic there, but you recognize the tragedies that have happened before. You don't have to be like, oh, well, then Earth is going to be the next tragedy. No, actually no. This is called setting a boundary. No is a magic word, and I want you guys to embody it and learn how to use it. When you say no, no is a complete sentence. You say, no, I'm not going to let that happen. Something else is going to happen. This is your right as a person that has appendages that go up into the 5th dimension and higher. You don't have to just manifest a diamond ring for yourself. Because what good is a diamond ring going to do if they decide that you're going to have a nuclear conflagration or a zombie apocalypse or whatever kind of horrific nightmare hell on earth that some crappy things want to manifest here? Diamond ring ain't going to save you. Fur coat isn't going to save you. Even large bunkers and cans of beans for years aren't going to actually save and help you, because then what are you going to do? Just sit in a bunker and eat beans, and then everyone else is running around and killing each other outside of your bunker? Like, that's a terrible existence. That is not a good life. And instead, what you really want, this is me being the waitress, that's like, no, that's not what you want on the menu. What you really want is this. What you really want is paradise. What you really want is an empowered existence where you have a pristine system, where you have actual justice, meaning you get what you deserve, and everybody who's been naughty gets what they deserve. It's like Santa's list here, and everybody who's been good gets what they deserve. But this is not like the Bible prophecy at the end of the Bible. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm really talking about a return to the functioning of this system that was meant to be so that you could learn and evolve as a soul. You get what you give in life. That's a basic truism. That's cosmic law. You get what you give in life. And we're in this world where that's really been perverted, and people give out negativity and harm and then receive millions of dollars and exalted lifestyles, and that's not how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be you help people and you do good stuff and you get good stuff. And then if you harm people or intend to harm people, that reflects back to you, and you get smack down, and then you learn, like, whap, like, don't do that, because you're gonna have a negative consequence. And in all of that, I just have to hug Cheeky, and then we have to wrap up class. Come here. And in all of that, you're supposed to be able to learn how to navigate. It's very much like training a dog. When you do the right thing, you get FOOD, you get rewards. And when you do the wrong thing, well, we don't really yell at Cheeky or anything like that, but, you get negative consequences. So if you want rewards and cookies, you gotta do the right things. And all of that is positive. It's not like infantile, keeping you in an infantile state. It's really giving you very, very clear parameters about how to navigate a complex and confusing system. So with dogs, like, keep it very simple and very consistent. Every time you put on Cheeky's leash, she gets a cookie. Every time. And then every time we get in the CAR, she also gets one. And then every time we do certain things, she gets praise and she gets a reward. And she's learned, like, oh, I like doing that thing because I know that there will be cookies involved. Like, today we went to the post office to send off some things. Cheeky loves doing that because she knows that I have a pocket full of cookies and that cookies will be involved, And it's highly motivational, and it's good and it's positive. So it gives us a sense of structural behavioralism about how to navigate and what we can do, what we can expect to happen as a result of what we are doing. And that's positive. That's actually very good. That's not like slavery or anything like that. I have to take Cheeky out clearly. She's really talking to me here. So that I wanted to wrap things up on the sense of the flying rainbow lasagna being the end result of the oscillation of the singularity, where you recognize that singularity, doorway to infinity, resides within you and also resides within something far distant, like a mountain or the sun. But the answer is there's really no space between yourself and this other person or organism. It is the same as you. There is no space between me and the sun. They overlap in singularity. There's no space between me and my dog. We overlap in singularity. And in that overlappingness, you create this oscillation shape that is a bridge that brings together formerly divergent realms. And the bridging process is non-arbitrary, so that's very big. It's not a randomness, but it's a very, very selective rectification for the healing and restructuring of reality. Thank you. Rainbow Body says, love you, and Cheeky, thank you so much. Usually I open the floor to questions and comments, but in light of Cheeky's forthright requests, I think she really needs to go OUT for WALK. I think I have to wrap things up right now. So thank you for your understanding on that. Thank you guys for loving Cheeky. And please access the whiteboards for lesson 2 of level 1, because it will give you so many details, and the details are really worth going into, and it's worth taking the time because it's actually a four-part lesson, yes, to be able to learn about all of that. Thank you, Allison. Thank you to everyone who was able to be here at the time of the actual recording. I greatly appreciate you taking the time, and especially returning students. And also, thank you to everyone who catches the archive, and to the people that consistently watch my class each week on YouTube. Thank you. Thank you for attenuating to my ideas, opening yourselves up, taking the time. I recognize these lectures are long, taking the time to really delve into some deep, challenging concepts, and your inner work that you do. Sorry, there's loud noises outside too. The inner work that you do in learning and embodying these concepts has a radiative, positive ripple effect outward to your community and to everything. Number 9 says, thanks for everything. You're so welcome. Thank you for being here, and thank you again, the people that catch the archive on YouTube. You help and contribute to my work as well. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.